One of the most anticipated shonen anime of the season is dropping on July 4th, and that is Black Torch. The story follows Jiro Azuma, a 17-year-old descendant of a shinobi clan who has a strange gift. He can speak with animals. But his quiet life changes when he rescues an injured black cat named Rago. However, Rago is no ordinary cat. He is a legendary Mononoke, feared as the Black Star of Doom. After a deadly enemy comes after Rago, Jiro is dragged into a hidden war between humans and Mononoke. Now, with his shinobi skills and a new supernatural power, Jiro's life will never be the same again. What awaits Jiro and Rago? Let's find out. The story began with a conversation between two individuals, where one of them asked his companion, a young boy named Jiro, what was wrong and whether he had gotten dragged into a fight again, to which Jiro answered that it was because those people were laughing at him. Everyone was saying that he was different because he could talk to animals, and they also said that he was creepy. The one speaking with him grew concerned over that and commented that it was troublesome. It turned out that the one speaking with Jiro here was a dog named Nachi. It told him to listen and explain that being different was a good thing, making Jiro ask how that was the case. Nachi said that it was because it meant there were things in this world that only he could do, which made Jiro think. He said that he could not really understand that, so Nachi simply laughed at him and told him that someday he would understand it too. In the next scene, several years had passed, and Jiro had grown into a young man. Under a bridge, a group surrounded him and angrily asked whether he had any idea who he was messing with, before informing him that their boss was the leader of the demon gang and that they were the ones running that entire area. However, Jiro was not scared by that, and while still picking his nose, he asked what of it, which irritated the gang member even more. He further mocked him by saying that he was only hiding behind their leader, then called him a wimpy gorilla, which made the man even more furious. The man called him a jerk and immediately threw a fast punch. He asked who Jiro thought he was while his fist was still extended, and to his shock, Jiro had suddenly disappeared from in front of him, leaving only his jacket to be hit. The man was completely confused by his sudden disappearance, and as a counter, Jiro kicked him from behind, causing him to be sent flying and fall into the river. Jiro explained that what he did there was the Utsasimi technique, the shedding of the cicada shell. He told that gang member to just stay in the water and cool off for a while. The man's two companions then wondered what was up with him and whether he was some kind of ninja. Jiro challenged the two of them next, telling them to come at him 2-on-1, because wasn't it true that weaklings like them could not do anything on their own, which greatly irritated the two. Because of that, they charged at him while shouting at him not to mess with them. It did not take long before Jiro also sent the two of them flying into the river, and after that, all three gang members left together and ran away from him. Jiro wiped his face after that and commented that they were such a headache. Someone then thanked him, saying that he had saved them. When he turned around, it turned out that a cat accompanied by a crow was speaking, and it said that they owed him one. The cat explained that those men had been hanging around there for the past few days, pointing out that they were noisy every night and littered everywhere. It added that those men had even been setting off fireworks at them, and they had been starting to get tired of their actions. But now, it thought that they could finally rest for a little while thanks to Jiro. After that, the cat asked whether he was sure he was all right, and said that it hoped those men would not come after him anymore. Jiro told them not to worry and explained that he was used to that kind of thing, to which the crow said that it was no surprise that it happened because his scary face was like a magnet for those kinds of people, causing Jiro to tell it to shut up if it did not want him to fry and eat it. He picked up his things and then said goodbye to the two of them, saying that they would meet again before advising them not to eat too much garbage, while the two also said goodbye to him in return. A short while later, he had returned home, and there, an old man greeted him by shouting and calling him a complete idiot before asking whether he had gotten into a fight again. The old man angrily asked how many more times he had to say that he did not teach him how to fight like a ninja, just so he could go out and look for trouble, but Jiro only told him to shut up. Irritated, Jiro asked who even cared about ninjas anymore and told the old man to get with the times, causing the old man to throw kunais at him while shouting that he was the one who should shut up, which Jiro easily dodged. The old man ordered him to look closely at the katana he was holding and explained that it was a ninja sword that had been passed down through their clan for many generations. He added that it was a noble family heirloom that their ancestors had supposedly received from the shogun during the Edo period, and that Jiro needed to learn how to live in a way worthy of the Azuma name. Jiro laughed mockingly and said that it was probably just some cheap fake sword, causing the old man to finally lose his temper. The old man decided that if that was how Jiro saw it, then he should find out whether it really was dull or not as he slowly drew the sword from its sheath. He shouted that he would test it on Jiro, causing Jiro to quickly run and dodge while shouting at him to stop. After their fooling around, Jiro cleaned the house, and while fixing the sliding door that had been broken because of their fight, he sarcastically thanked the old man for the mess he left behind. The old man then called him afterward, so Jiro asked what it was. He informed Jiro that he was going to the town meeting and would only return home at night, so Jiro would have to take care of his own dinner. He also added that Jiro should make sure all the doors were locked, but Jiro only told him to shut up. Jiro asked why he even had to lock all the doors and told the old man to stop treating him like a child. After fixing the door, someone called out to him, causing him to tiredly ask what it was this time. When he turned around, he noticed that it was the crow he had met earlier. He asked what it needed and whether it had come there to beg for food, but the crow said that was not the reason it came. Anxiously, it informed him that there was a cat inside the forest behind them, which made Jiro wonder what it meant. After that, the crow told him to just follow it and quickly flew away, so Jiro told it to wait while trying to call after it. They hurriedly ran into the forest, and while running, Jiro wondered how much farther they had to go, to which the crow said that they were almost there. Before long, the crow said that it could see the cat, which caught Jiro's attention. It pointed out that the cat was right beside the tree. When Jiro saw the cat's condition, he asked what had happened to it and whether it was the crow's friend, to which the crow answered no and explained that it did not know the cat and had only happened to see it while flying. Jiro commented that it still seemed to be alive, but the crow said that it was not responding. Jiro cursed in frustration and said that the cat was barely breathing and that they needed to help it. He tried to wake it up and asked whether it could hear him. On the cat's side, it could hear Jiro's voice and wondered who was speaking to it. Someone then called the cat Rago and addressed him as he who devours the sun, the black star of doom, before telling him to wake up and lend them his power. Rago answered that they should not bother him and said that he never asked them to wake him up before shouting that he would not help them. The voice understood him and explained that if he refused to help them, then they had no other choice, declaring that he had to die. Rago suddenly opened his eyes after that and saw that he was lying on a small beanbag while his body was wrapped in bandages. He looked around the place he was in, which seemed to be a room, and silently observed it. A voice then caught his attention and was surprised that he was already awake. It turned out to be Jiro, and he said that Rago was probably thirsty, so he had brought him water to drink. While approaching the cat, Jiro said that he had really been worried about him, but he also commented that Rago was tougher than he looked. He introduced himself to Rago and then asked what his name was, but Rago only stared at him. Because of that, Jiro commented that even a stray had a name. Rago wondered whether this boy was an idiot and told himself that there was no way Jiro could understand him, but Jiro asked who he was calling an idiot before calling him a stupid cat, which completely shocked him. Out of extreme surprise, Rago quickly hid under Jiro's bed to get away from him, so Jiro told him that he did not need to be afraid. Jiro explained that he knew it was probably Rago's first time speaking with a human, so he understood why he was surprised, but he assured him that he would not eat him or anything like that before urging him to come out. In Rago's mind, he noticed that there was no trace of spectral aura on Jiro, so he was definitely human. When he realized that, he thought that Jiro might be one of the beings he knew. A short while later, Jiro stood up again and clicked his tongue in irritation. He commented that it looked like he had no other choice but to use his trump card. Rago shook his head in his mind and declared that he would not move no matter what Jiro did. However, despite Rago's declaration, a short while later, he came out on his own and positioned himself beside Jiro, who was sitting on the floor. It turned out that Jiro had simply placed a bowl of food beside him and waited for him, while Rago was currently devouring it, causing Jiro to grin and comment that it was actually easy after all. Rago scoffed again and said that didn't Jiro know that a man's worth was measured by his ability to accept any food with an open heart. Jiro agreed, but argued that Rago was not a person and was just a cat. Because of that, Rago shouted that he was not a cat, to which Jiro sarcastically agreed and said that he was sure he was not. After that, Rago introduced himself to Jiro and said that he was an immortal being, a Mononoke. Jiro was confused about what a Mononoke was, so Rago explained further that he could also be called a ghost, an evil spirit, a specter, or a demon, and said that his point was that Mononoke were real. While explaining that, he thought that this was good and planned to find out how much Jiro knew. He explained that they usually disguised themselves as humans or animals and lived normally alongside Jiro's kind. He also added that some of them lived in isolation in forests or mountains. Jiro then asked how a Mononoke like him ended up in that kind of condition. Rago silently looked at him and noticed that Jiro did not seem like he was pretending not to know, before asking himself whether that boy truly knew nothing at all. Because he did not answer, Jiro asked him what it was and whether it was a secret or something. Before long, Rago explained that he had been attacked by another Mononoke, to which Jiro asked whether he had gotten into a fight with a friend. Rago said that he did not really know the whole situation because he had been asleep for a long time. He also added that he was suddenly awakened and found himself surrounded by a group of Mononoke he had never met before. He also said that they asked him to help them, but he told them to leave because he had no interest whatsoever, to which Jiro asked whether what happened next was that they beat him up. After that, Jiro asked why he refused and pointed out that weren't they all the same Mononoke. So Rago said that he hated those kinds of people. He explained that he truly despised people who acted tough while hiding behind others, and Jiro suddenly felt something when he heard that statement. Rago said that this was his story, but he thought it was not something a person like Jiro would believe, to which Jiro said that honestly, he did not really get it, but quickly added that it did not mean he did not believe him, which caught Rago's attention. Jiro said that if there was a human who could talk to animals, then what was still so surprising about Mononoke? Rago stared at him after that, and suddenly commented that he was weird, which irritated Jiro. While this was happening, we shifted to the forest behind their house. There, a woman was going around while speaking to someone. She contacted their headquarters and introduced herself as Kishimogen. She asked their chief if he could hear her, to which the one who heard her, Shiba, answered and asked if she had found anything. She agreed and explained that she had found blood inside the forest at point E16 and that she was positive it belonged to Rago. She said that she could detect only one type of aura remnant and that it stopped there. But the density reading suggested that it had been there recently, so she thought that Rago might still be near that area. Shiba praised her for that and said that he will regroup with the search team, then told her to return for now, which she acknowledged with a copy. After ending their call, Kishimogen scoffed and said that she could have handled this kind of thing by herself. After that, from where she was standing, she suddenly vanished as if she had teleported. A short while later, beside a tree near that area, a mysterious man was shown arriving at the same spot where Rago's blood had been found, and he grinned as though he was plotting something sinister. After that, we returned to Jiro and Rago, and here, while Jiro was bathing Rago, he was amazed to see that his wounds had already healed. Because of that, Jiro commented that he really was not an ordinary cat, to which Rago answered that Jiro actually had not believed him after all. Jiro said that he had sort of believed him, but thought that half of it was the rambling of a sick cat. So Rago got irritated with him and called him a jerk. After that, Jiro said that bathing Rago like this reminded him of Nachi, which made Rago wonder who that was. So Jiro informed him that it was his old dog. Jiro described Nachi as big, white, and very kind, and said that she was like a grandmother to him. He added that Nachi was the complete opposite of Rago, which irritated Rago again and made him ask whether Jiro wanted to die. After that, Jiro said that back then, he was often bullied at school and would always come home dirty and covered in bruises. He told him that whenever Nachi saw him in that condition, she would ask him to bathe her, and she would always say that he should wash away his resentment together with the dirt in her fur, or something like that. And after that, he added, Nachi would say that she was very happy to have him in her life, and that because of him, she could get clean anytime she wanted. So there was one favor she wanted to ask. That favor was that when someone else needed his help, she wanted him to help them too. She also added that Jiro was probably the only one capable of doing that. Rago's eyes widened slightly when he heard that. Then he looked down and began thinking about something. Just as he was about to speak, Jiro suddenly sprayed him with water while saying that it was time to rinse him, which completely startled him. A short while later, Jiro seemed to have heard something, so he asked if Rago had said something. But in irritation, Rago only shouted, "Never mind." In the next scene, night had already arrived, and we were shown that it was 11:25. Jiro was sound asleep in his bed. Meanwhile, Rago was looking at him from the side while standing near the window. He apologized to Jiro and explained that he had wanted to thank him personally, but he could no longer stay there any longer. He went out through the window and said goodbye while Jiro was still sound asleep. Outside, Rago landed on the ground and quickly noticed something. He became irritated and commented that even though his wounds had healed, his power still had not returned. His legs were trembling as he tried to walk, and he said that he had no time to stay there and needed to get as far away as possible. Suddenly, it turned out that Jiro was actually awake and sitting behind him, and he commented that Rago still seemed to be trembling badly, which startled Rago. Out of extreme shock, Rago asked how long he had been sitting there, to which Jiro told him to lower his voice because it was the middle of the night. Rago pointed out that he thought Jiro was sleeping, so Jiro explained that it was the Kawarimi technique, where he used a body double, which confused the cat even more. Rago commented that Jiro was very sneaky. After that, Jiro seriously said that more importantly, where was Rago planning to go in that condition, causing Rago to look him straight in the eye and say that it was none of his business. Jiro stood up and asked what he meant by saying it was none of his business, before pointing out that he was the one who saved him. Rago questioned that statement. He pointed out that he did not remember asking for help, which irritated Jiro and made him snap. After that, Rago said that Jiro did it on his own and that he owed him nothing. He also added that aside from that, he would have been fine with dying anyway, which confused Jiro even more. Jiro asked what Rago was talking about, to which Rago fell silent for a moment before repeating again that, as he had said, it was none of Jiro's business. Because of that, Jiro shouted and told him to stop that nonsense, before calling him an idiot. He said that he did not know what Rago had been through, but he should never speak so casually about death. While he was still speaking, something suddenly happened to Rago, which startled him. It turned out that Rago had transformed into what seemed to be his battle form, while an aura like fire began swirling around his entire body, and he said that he was starting to get tired of Jiro's constant talking. He declared that if Jiro did not stop, he would bite his head off and sever it cleanly. After that, he asked whether Jiro had forgotten that he was a Mononoke, a monster that ate humans. He pointed out that humans like Jiro and monsters like him did not belong in the same world. Now, he added, Jiro should get out of his way and never come near him again. Shock was still clearly visible on Jiro's face as he looked at the cat, when suddenly, a man arrived and commented that it looked like they were having fun, which caught their attention. This man asked whether they would mind if he joined in, and he seemed to be the man from earlier who had seen the trace Rago left behind with his blood. He then asked whether that was all right with Rago, to which Rago cursed in alarm and said that the man had already arrived there. Jiro then took this man's attention and asked who he thought he was, suddenly butting in like that. Jiro scratched his head after that and added that, actually, he did not know who this man was, and he did not care either, then said that he was not in the mood, so the man should piss off. However, horns began to grow from this man, and he told Jiro to stop right there while calling him human. His right arm also grew larger and took the form of a monster while he said that he would eat him too, which greatly alarmed Jiro. Rago suddenly moved and began leaping away from them, causing Jiro to turn toward him in shock. Rago quickly disappeared from there, but the monster man only grinned and commented that it was a nice try. He said that Rago would not escape from him, and then he suddenly vanished right in front of Jiro. A strong wind blew after that, and Jiro could only stare blankly in shock at what had just happened. Jiro remembered what Rago had said earlier, that humans like him and monsters like Rago did not belong in the same world. He stared even harder after that, and when he remembered Rago telling him to get out of his way, he gritted his teeth in irritation. On Rago's side, he was quickly being chased by the monster man into the forest. The man laughed and asked what the problem was, then said that Rago needed to be faster because if not, he would catch him. In Rago's mind, he answered that the bastard should not underestimate him. He said that he did not need to outrun him. He only needed to get as far away from Jiro as he possibly could. While chasing him, the monster man noticed something and stopped for a moment. He said that it looked like that was as fast as Rago could go. He said that he knew Rago was injured, but he had not realized it was that bad. He started chasing him again and commented that this was extremely boring. Rago grew worried when he saw that the man had gotten close to him, while the man prepared to send out a claw slash. Rago was hit by that attack, causing him to be sent flying toward the ground. He groaned in pain after receiving it, while the man commented that it was simply sad. The man insisted that Rago was supposed to be the legendary Mononoke, Rago the Black Star of Doom, and yet all he had shown were his fangs. He invited Rago to just come with him and said that everything would be fine. He asked if Rago had any idea how difficult it was to break the seal on his body, then commented that he did not want to kill one of his own kind. Rago questioned what the man said about him being his own kind and told him not to make him laugh. He said that the man only wanted his power, not Rago himself. If he truly wanted it that badly, then he should charge at him and take it. But he should only do that if he was prepared to die, Rago said while showing his ferocity. The man understood that and said that, in that case, Rago should die. The two Mononoke charged at each other at the same time, but unexpectedly, Jiro suddenly appeared at their side, ready to send out a sword slash. Because of that, the two of them turned toward him, and before long, their attacks landed. The enemy Mononoke skidded away after that, and it could be seen that Jiro had struck his arm with his katana. The Mononoke held his bleeding arm because of that, while Rago's eyes widened as he stared at Jiro. He was completely shocked to see him and called him a fool. Just as he was about to ask why he was there, Jiro told him that he was the fool. He said that Rago could not just die there, because if he did, then Jiro would have saved his life for no reason. Rago became completely confused by him and shouted, asking what his problem was. He asked if Jiro could not see what was happening, then pointed out that this was not some silly fight between street thugs. While the enemy Mononoke was visibly trembling with anger, Jiro said that he understood Rago's point, but said that saving someone was never stupid. Rago's eyes widened at that as Jiro added that he was the one who offered to help him, so why would he give up halfway? Besides, he added, even if he ran there, that enemy would still kill both of them anyway. The enemy Mononoke fully transformed into his true form, making him look even more monstrous, and he commented that Jiro was right. But he said that Jiro was strange. He was not that surprised by his true form. He noticed Jiro's sword and movements, then asked if he was right that Jiro came from a ninja bloodline, which caught Jiro's attention. The Mononoke laughed at that and said that Jiro was definitely worth eating before charging quickly. Jiro was shocked by the speed this Mononoke possessed, but when the Mononoke managed to hit him with a claw slash, he was surprised to find that only Jiro's clothes were in his hand, which shocked him. Jiro appeared behind it, ready to attack, and announced that the move he had done was Utsusumi, the shedding of the cicada shell. He tried to send a slash directly at his back, but to his great shock, the Mononoke suddenly vanished, which left him completely confused. Something suddenly struck his body, causing his eyes to widen in shock, while the Mononoke asked him what the problem was. It turned out that the Mononoke had managed to stab him directly through the chest from behind using his sharp claw, and he questioned whether Jiro thought he could attack him from behind. Rago's eyes also widened in shock when he saw that. Jiro began to struggle to move because of that, while the Mononoke told him to give up. If he fought it any further, he would only prolong his suffering. However, Jiro did not give up, and after gritting his teeth, he tried to slash him again, which intrigued the Mononoke while he easily dodged. The Mononoke commented that it had been close, while Jiro simply collapsed to the ground. The Mononoke said to imagine that he was still fighting even in that condition, and that he really did have courage, before adding that this was what one would expect from a ninja. But, he added, it looked like Jiro would no longer hear him, while Jiro was lying on the ground, unconscious, with a large hole in his chest. Something then caught the Mononoke's attention, and it was Rago climbing onto Jiro's body. He looked at Jiro's unconscious face, while the Mononoke said that Rago could take that one. Wasn't it true that he had not eaten in years? Just as the Mononoke was about to say that once Rago was full and his power returned, he would change his mind, Rago called out to him, and with a chilling pressure, told him to shut up, and that if he did not, he would kill him. The Mononoke froze when he heard those words from Rago, and Rago looked back at Jiro's face. He commented on how selfish Jiro was and asked if Jiro had even thought about why he left without saying anything, before pointing out that Jiro had ignored his warning and died because of it. He said that everything Jiro had done was meaningless. He explained that if he ate Jiro, he would definitely regain his powers, but he would not do that. He added that he was getting tired of the endless complaining of the individual he was referring to, so instead, he decided that Jiro would be the one to eat him. His body began blazing once again with his strange power as he said that he owed Jiro, so he was simply returning the favor. This caught the giant Mononoke's attention, causing him to shout for a moment and ask what he was doing. However, Rago ignored him and only added that his life now belonged to Jiro, before he suddenly vanished as if he had entered Jiro's body. From within, he told Jiro to open his eyes. Before long, an extremely powerful explosion of aura burst from Jiro's body, and it caught Kishimogen's attention as she was searching through the forest from another location. She quickly informed her chief about it, to which Shiba said that he could also see it from where he was. He commented that it looked like the situation had become even more complicated. After that, he ordered every squad to head to the location immediately. On the battlefield, the Mononoke covered his face because of the extremely powerful surge of aura. He shouted at Rago, asking how he dared do that, before asking if he knew what he had done. He pointed out that he had given his power to a human, to a ninja, and added that he had turned his back on his own race. Here, Jiro's body was shown standing up again. The enemy Mononoke angrily asked if he planned to fight for humans, to which Jiro irritably answered by telling him to shut up. His body was completely healed. There was now a mark on his chest, and Rago's aura was coming out of his body. He wondered what was happening, and when he noticed his body, he became completely flustered and once again asked what all of this was. Rago spoke to him from deep within and said that this was not the time to space out, which startled him. Just as Jiro was about to ask him what was happening, Rago shouted at him and said that he would explain everything later and that he should be careful first. The enemy Mononoke suddenly charged at them after that while shouting that both of them would die there, and asked if they thought the fusion they had done would save them. Despite his speed, Jiro easily dodged him even though he was still surprised. He asked what that Mononoke meant by the word fuse, so Rago became irritated with him and told him to stop rambling. Rago said that they needed to kill that Mononoke. Just as Jiro was about to speak again, the Mononoke charged at them and sent out a smash, which Jiro dodged again by jumping. Jiro questioned what Rago had said about killing him and asked how he expected him to do that. The monster charged at them again, and when they landed on the ground, Rago told him not to worry and said that he would lend him a hand. All Jiro needed to do was go all out and knock that Mononoke to the ground. Jiro formed his right hand and prepared to send out a punch. When he sent it out, it carried a tremendous aura and power, which flew toward the Mononoke and struck his body solidly, causing him to explode without any difficulty. The Mononoke could no longer do anything when that happened, while Jiro was completely stunned that Rago had actually meant it literally when he said that he would lend him a hand. The entire body of the Mononoke they had knocked down smoked after that, while Jiro panted from extreme exhaustion. Jiro was completely confused and asked what was happening there. One moment, he had been stabbed directly through the chest, and now that black smoke was coming out of his body. He called Rago after that and told him to make sure he explained everything to him. But he suddenly stopped when he noticed something. A sharp knife suddenly appeared from behind him, and the one pointing it at him told him not to move. Just as he was about to react, she immediately told him not to speak either. It turned out to be Kishimogen, and Jiro wondered who this woman was and when she had gotten behind him. Someone in front of him then commented that things had really become complicated. It was Shiba, and he added that quite the unexpected development had happened there. Jiro cursed in alarm and asked if they were friends with the thing he had fought, to which Shiba said that he was being rather rude and informed him that they were not Mononoke. He said that they were from the Bureau of Espionage, regular public servants. Jiro wondered what that was, so Shiba said that they would explain later. He said that he was sure Jiro had already guessed the situation, then called him a mysterious boy, but for now, they needed to take him into custody, which completely shocked Jiro. Jiro shouted and told them not to joke around, but just as he was about to start scolding them for suddenly appearing, Kishimogen struck him on the back of the neck, causing him to collapse to the ground. She pointed out that she had just told him not to speak. Shiba called her Ichika and told her that she did not need to rough up Jiro, to which she answered that she had only put him to sleep using the hilt. She said that it would be bad if he became too worked up, so Shiba said that he truly admired her loyalty as always. After that, Ichika asked what they would do with Jiro now, to which Shiba explained that they would take him to one of their affiliated hospitals and that he needed to be evaluated and examined immediately. He said that they could not afford to lose him. He said that Jiro was extremely important, both to their side and to the side of the Mononoke. In the next scene, Jiro ended up in a whiteout room, and he asked what that place was. As far as he remembered, he had met a strange cat, and then he had been attacked by an even stranger monster. At that moment, someone called out to him, and he was shocked that it was Rago. He was also confused when he saw strange smoke coming from him, and that he was flickering. Rago answered that no one cared about that, because Jiro should look at himself, since he had a huge hole in his chest, which confused him. A little later, Jiro woke up in the real world, and his head hurt terribly. He called his conversation with Rago in the White Room a dream, but it seemed to have been real because he had a large scar on his chest. Someone then noticed that he was awake, and it was Ichika, who informed him that he had been asleep for a day and a half. Jiro asked who she was and where they were. She did not answer him, and only told her chief, Shiba, that he was awake and seemed fully conscious. Shiba tried to offer Ichika some sweets, and she answered that anything was fine as long as Shiba came back right away. At the same time, Jiro wondered what was going on with Ichika because she was ignoring him. Rago then said that he could see that Ichika had no charm at all, which Jiro agreed with. Right after that, Jiro and Ichika suddenly went silent, and Shiba could even be heard on the phone saying that he would buy chocolate shrooms and bamboo shoots. He even tried to call Ichika's attention as she stood there in a daze. Jiro was the same, because he was completely shocked to see Rago there. After that, the scene shifted to Shiba, who could not believe that Ichika had hung up on him. He was already in front of the room where Jiro was, and he could hear Jiro shouting at Rago. Jiro said that he had thought Rago had abandoned him, and now Rago was just going to say that he had been sleeping. He even asked if he looked like a bed to Rago, but Rago told him to shut up because he had not woken up just to listen to him complain again. Ichika told them to stop shouting at each other because they were in a hospital, but Jiro shouted at her to shut up and asked who she even was. When Shiba entered Jiro's room, he said that he was glad Jiro was okay, and that he was lucky to have a strong body. He also asked Rago if he was feeling alright, but Rago snapped back at him and asked if he had no manners. He also told Shiba not to talk to him as if they knew each other. Because of that, Shiba thought that Rago was definitely suspicious of him, but it did not seem like he was malicious, so the situation was not as bad as they had first expected. He then introduced himself as Ryosuke Shiba and his subordinate as Ichika Kishimogen. He was about to say that they were members of the Bureau of Espionage, but Jiro cut him off. He even asked if Shiba had forgotten his promise and told him to speak. Because of that, Shiba mentioned to Ichika that Jiro's memory seemed fine, so Ichika told him not to look at her like that. After that, Shiba began explaining things to Jiro, and he started by asking if Jiro knew about the Oniie-Chan, which made Jiro wonder why he was asking. Jiro asked if that was the organization used by the shogunate during the Edo period, and Shiba answered that he was correct. He even added that he had not expected Jiro to know about that, which irritated him. Shiba explained that the Oniie-Chan were a group of Onmitsu government-employed ninja operatives, and that they were the ones who brought the transition from the shogunate to the current government during the Meiji Restoration. Even though it was not public knowledge, they were officially an organization that still existed in the present day, known as the Bureau of Espionage. Their main work was intelligence gathering and manipulation inside and outside the country, and that included killing Mononoke. However, they rarely caused trouble, and in recent years, most of their missions had been human-related. More specifically, they served as bodyguards for extremely important people, investigated dangerous organizations, and handled similar work. Because of that, his division, which specialized in Mononoke, had been living an easy life until just recently. The other day, one of their facilities had been attacked by a group of Mononoke, and the one sealed inside that facility was Rago, who was now inside Jiro. When Jiro learned that, He remembered that Rago had mentioned something to him about sleeping for a long time. Shiba then said that he wanted to ask a few questions of his own. He started by finding out how Jiro and Rago had ended up like that, which made the two of them look at each other while Jiro wondered about it. When Jiro told him what had happened, Ichika shouted in shock and asked Jiro how stupid he was. Not only had he interfered in something that had nothing to do with him, but he had also saved a Mononoke. Jiro insisted that Ichika had not been there when it happened, so who cared what she thought? Shiba said that the situation was a problem because what was he supposed to write in his report? He said that it was impossible for anyone to take him seriously with what had happened, and Ichika told him that was the least of their worries. Shiba said that leaving all the details aside, the fact of the matter was that Jiro had fused with Rago. He even told Jiro that he might already have a hunch, but he would say it anyway, that his condition was permanent. Jiro was confused by that, while Shiba added that, to be honest, they had no idea how to undo it, which shocked Jiro. However, they knew how to look for a way to undo it. Aside from that, since they did not know what the other Mononoke were planning, they would take Jiro and Rago in first to protect them. Jiro said that Shiba could not order him around like that, but before he could finish, Shiba told him that he would not take no for an answer. Jiro was already a missing person to the police, and they were making the necessary arrangements, which shocked him to hear. Shiba added that unfortunately for Jiro, they were not the good guys, because they had no obligation to observe Jiro's rights. Above all, he was no longer a child, so he would take responsibility for what he had done. Jiro did not like hearing that, and Shiba added that Jiro would be transferred to another facility the next morning, so he should just rest. They had guards outside, so he would not have any problems. As he was leaving, Shiba also said that there were towels and a change of clothes in the closet, and that they would see each other tomorrow. Jiro tried to speak, but he was surprised, because Ichika was staring at him. He saw the look in her eyes, so he asked what was wrong. She then suddenly turned away from him, so he asked what her problem was. That irritated him, and he asked what was going on with her. In the next scene, Jiro's guards were shown outside his room, while he looked down on them and called them nothing more than prison guards. He also asked why the police were treating him as a missing person. When he thought about his grandfather, he wondered what would happen if he could never go home again. Rago then said that he had already told Jiro that he should not have gotten involved with him. Because of that, Jiro asked if even Rago was going to lecture him, and Rago answered that he was not. He was only saying that what had already happened. Shiba had said that all of it was for Jiro's protection, but Jiro should think about how they were the ones who sealed him. Because of that, did Jiro really believe they would treat him as a human now that he had fused with a Mononoke? That did not even include the Mononoke that had attacked them, because that one and his allies were willing to attack the Bureau directly, and they would not give up easily. No matter how Jiro looked at it, he was alone now, and only hostility would be waiting for him. People would only want to use him. Because of that, Jiro shouted because it was such a huge problem, which startled Rago. Rago even asked if Jiro had gone crazy, but Jiro said that Rago kept talking about whatever he wanted to say. Jiro had had enough of that, and he would just do what he wanted to do. He even told Rago that they were going to get out of there, which shocked the Mononoke, and he asked where Jiro planned to run after escaping. Jiro answered that he was not going to run, which confused Rago. He explained that he would beat some sense into them, and he no longer cared what happened after that. Rago said that he had no idea what Jiro was planning, but he should not expect him to help. Jiro answered that he already knew that, and explained that he ended up like that because he didn't mind his own business. So, he said he'll solve that problem using his own abilities. Back with Jiro's bodyguards outside, the black-haired one seemed sleepy. His white-haired companion told him that they were in the middle of a mission, so he should stay focused. He apologized because he could not help it. He even asked if it was right that the hospital belonged to the Bureau, so it was impossible for anything to happen there. However, while he was saying that, they heard shouting from Jiro's room. They immediately entered to find out what had happened, and they saw Jiro with some birds as he said goodbye. He even ordered the birds to attack the bodyguards, which shocked them. He used that opportunity to escape. Rago was impressed by what he had done, and Jiro told him that it was a good thing the birds had been open to the idea. The black-haired bodyguard panicked, so his companion told him to calm down because they needed to contact the higher-ups. A little later, Jiro thanked the birds for helping him earlier. One of them said that it was no problem, and that it had been fun for them too. Jiro gave them the food he had promised, so the birds thanked him and left. Rago then asked what Jiro's plan was now, because the Bureau would easily catch him. Jiro said that he was not worried about that, and that there was something he had to do. And after that, the scene shifted to Jiro's grandfather's house. Rago said that he had been wondering where Jiro was going, and asked if it was really his house, to which Jiro answered that it was. He said that it was not right for him to suddenly disappear, so Rago told him that he was a good kid. He asked how Jiro was going to explain it, because even if he told the truth, it would be impossible for anyone to believe him. Jiro insisted that they were talking about his grandfather, so of course he would believe him. However, he needed to look cool, so Rago should not come out until he called him. Before entering, he took a deep breath to compose himself before talking to his grandfather. At that moment, his grandfather suddenly called him a trespasser, which shocked him. Jiro asked where he had come from, but the old man asked if Jiro was going to disappear out of nowhere and make that the first thing he said. Jiro answered that a lot of things had happened, and he knew it would be hard to believe, but he had gone home to do that, but had gone home to explain everything. Before he could finish saying it, he noticed something that shocked him, because his grandfather had already started walking away. Jiro asked where he was going, and his grandfather answered that he should just shut up and follow him. Jiro found that strange, and simply answered yes, sir. His grandfather took him to a track oval, and Jiro asked how long that was going to take. He did not have much time, and he still had a lot to explain before he left. He also asked why they were there of all places, and his grandfather answered that shouldn't it be obvious. They were there so no one would interfere, which confused Jiro to hear. At the same time, his grandfather hit him with a powerful uppercut punch that sent him flying. Of course, that hurt him, and he asked his grandfather what that was for, while his grandfather called him a fool. He even asked if Jiro had even the slightest idea what he had done. Jiro wondered what his grandfather was talking about, and he apologized for leaving without telling him, but he did not think he deserved to get punched in the face. His grandfather answered that was not what he meant. Shiba had already told him everything, which completely shocked Jiro. He added that he already knew Jiro had been possessed by a Mononoke and was being pursued by the Bureau of Espionage. Jiro asked how he knew all of that, so his grandfather called him an idiot. That was when his grandfather revealed that it was because he had been a former member of the Bureau. Jiro could not believe what he had heard, while Rago came out after understanding something, and he said that he had thought it was strange because the old man had so much bloodlust. Jiro was shocked to see him, and his grandfather asked if he was Rago. He did not like that Rago had possessed his grandson. He even said that he had not wanted to believe it had happened without seeing it with his own eyes, but now he knew what he had to do. There would be no more beating around the bush, because he had to take responsibility for his grandson's stupidity. If the Bureau or the Mononoke were going to use him, he would destroy both Jiro and Rago, then take his own life. Because of that, Rago said that things were getting interesting, while Jiro was confused about what his grandfather meant. The old man said that the conversation was over, while jumping high to strike Jiro's head with an axe kick. Rago and Jiro became worried when they saw that, but luckily, Jiro managed to jump away before his grandfather could drive his foot into his head. When Jiro landed, an impressed Rago mentioned that the old man was definitely serious, and Jiro said that his grandfather had always been like that ever since he was a child. Even so, he had never seen him that angry before, so that was also a first for him. To his shock, his grandfather suddenly disappeared from in front of him and was already at his side. When he saw where his grandfather was, the old man told him that he was too slow, then hit him with a powerful punch. Jiro once again slammed hard into the ground because of that, and this time, he was already vomiting blood. His grandfather said that the martial art style he had used had been perfected by the Azuma clan over generations, and it was the ultimate art of combat specifically designed to easily kill humans and Mononoke. He had only trained Jiro in the basics for self-defense, and he had not expected that he would use it to end his grandson's life. At the same time, Rago told Jiro that it was bad, because at that rate, he needed to fight back. Jiro's grandfather added that, at the very least, he would end his grandson's suffering with his final strike, which irritated Rago. He used his power to protect Jiro, which shocked him. Rago sent the old man flying, and when he landed, he began to think. Rago then asked what Jiro was doing and if he had a death wish. His grandfather was seriously trying to kill him, so he would protect him. He was about to say what Jiro needed to do, but Jiro grabbed him. He told Rago not to interfere. He had already told him not to come out until he said so he should not get involved. Rago said that if that was what Jiro wanted, then he should do whatever he wanted. In the next scene, it returned to the past, when someone was calling for Mr. Toshimasa, who turned out to be Jiro's grandfather. The one calling him was Nachi, who told him that it was not the time to lounge around and that he should follow her, because Jiro had gotten himself into trouble again. He had climbed a tree to save a baby cat, but he had slipped. Jiro was almost crying as he fell, but luckily, his grandfather caught him. Toshimasa could not speak and looked irritated, while Jiro praised him for the nice catch. That was followed by Toshimasa shouting at Jiro and calling him a dumb brat. He scolded his grandson because he had told him many times not to climb trees if he could not get down on his own. He even asked what he had to do to make Jiro listen to him. While tearing up, Jiro tried to explain that the kitten had been crying because it could not get down, so he climbed the tree. Toshimasa explained that, of course, saving others was a noble thing, but only if Jiro had the strength and resolve to do it. If he lacked strength, doing it would be reckless, and if he lacked resolve, it would be irresponsible. Right now, Jiro still lacked both, so he was still half a man. As long as he was like that, he needed to ask the people close to him for help. Jiro asked what would happen if no one was there to help, and Toshimasa answered that, in that case, he would have no choice but to just give up. Jiro refused to accept that, so his grandfather told himself that he was extremely stubborn. However, he said that if that was the case, then Jiro should become stronger in both mind and body. If he did that, he would definitely be able to climb any tree, no matter how tall it was. However, until that time came, Jiro should not overdo it when saving others. Jiro happily agreed, and he told his grandfather that they should start training that day. Because of that, his grandfather mentioned how energetic he was that day. Back in the present, Toshimasa told Jiro that what was happening at that moment was not training or a pointless argument. It was a life-or-death struggle to achieve their goals. They were walking a path of carnage, and this was the way of the world Jiro had thrown himself into. He would kill humans and Mononoke, and in doing so, he would also kill off his own emotions. His body and soul would be stained red by the blood of everyone he killed. Toshimasa added that the shadowy world where the sun did not reach was the world he had lived in. However, he had gotten out of that world, and he said that the last thing he wanted was for his precious grandson to enter that world. Jiro apologized for what he had done and said that it really had been extremely stupid. However, he did not regret it. It was true that he had interfered in something where he did not belong, and that was why he would be the one to fix it. That was his resolve. Toshimasa did not like hearing that and called Jiro an idiot. He charged at him again, which worried Rago, while Jiro apologized to him. He also told Rago to hold on a little longer. He then pulled Rago inside himself and took a deep breath. After that, he met his grandfather's punch with his own head, so he was sent flying again. He flew far because of that, and a lot of blood scattered from him. He endured all the pain from that punch and managed to land on his feet. He also saw blood dripping from him, and Rago called him an imbecile and asked what he was thinking. Even Toshimasa agreed with Rago, asking Jiro the same question. Was it possible that he wanted to show him his strength and resolve? He then told Jiro not to be arrogant, and he was still only half a man. Jiro then spat out blood, and he laughed because what he had done still had not been enough to convince his grandfather. He told him that, for better or worse, he was no longer alone. Toshimasa himself had told him that as long as he was only half a man, he needed to ask those close to him for help. If that was the case, then he would ask Rago for help, so his grandfather did not need to worry about him anymore. He even asked Rago if that was right, and Rago seemed shocked to hear it. He even said, "Huh," which irritated Jiro and made him point out that he was supposed to support him. However, Rago said that he had no idea what Jiro was talking about. At that moment, Toshimasa remembered what he had told Jiro about asking for help, and he understood that, for Jiro, it did not matter whether something was human, animal, or Mononoke, because he treated them all the same. After closing his eyes, he said that Jiro was still a stubborn fool who loved splitting hairs. No matter how many times he told him, or no matter how much Jiro got hurt, he would not change. Because of that, he raised his white bandana and surrendered their fight. He even mentioned that it seemed he was the one who lacked resolve between the two of them, then held out a white flag as surrender. After that, he told him he should do whatever he wanted. Jiro smiled when he heard that, and he thanked his grandfather. Back at his grandfather's house, he took a bath, and his wounds stung, but he said nothing beats a nice soak. Rago told him not to speak like an old geezer, so he told him to shut up and bathe with him, and he even called him a mangy cat. After saying that, Jiro remembered something, and he apologized to Rago for making him go along with his selfish plan. Rago said that he did not care, because Jiro had done that to himself. However, all humans had limits, so Jiro should not just charge toward his own death. If he died again, everything he had done for him would become meaningless. That was why he would lend Jiro his power whenever he got cocky again and tried to act cool, so he should use it properly. That was all he had to say. Jiro smiled when he heard that, and said that he had no idea what would happen from there, but he and Rago were together now, so they should get along. He even called Rago his partner, asking if that sounded good, but Rago just ignored him. In the next scene, Toshimasa was shown talking to someone on the phone, and the person he was speaking to mentioned that he had told him the previous night that his men were already on their way there. It would not be long before they arrived, so Toshimasa should prepare. Toshimasa then told the person he was speaking to, who was Shiba, that he was not usually generous enough to wait until the end of the day. Shiba answered that of course he was, because he knew what Toshimasa could do. In truth, when he heard that Jiro had escaped from the hospital and gone home, he felt relieved. Toshimasa asked what Shiba meant, and Shiba asked if he really needed to explain it. After all, Jiro was going to become an Oniwabanshu, and strength and determination were important skills for them. He needed to prepare for his arrival, so he would talk to Toshimasa later, who seemed to be thinking already. Meanwhile, Jiro was already annoyed because he did not know what to bring, so he decided to just bring whatever. He knew he was not going to die together with all of his belongings anyway, so he would only bring underwear and a change of clothes. Rago asked if he was sure about that, which seemed to surprise him. Rago said that they did not even know what the Bureau wanted from them, and that might be Jiro's last chance to see that place. Because of that, Jiro asked if Rago was worried about him, which shocked Rago to hear, and he said that was not what he meant. Jiro said that being afraid would not help them, and according to Inoki, they should not be afraid. They would understand once they persevered. Rago understood that, but asked who Inoki was, and Jiro answered that he was his ultimate mentor. When he came out of his grandfather's house, he and Toshimasa were shocked because Ichika was there. Jiro asked what she was doing there, and Ichika answered that she was Jiro's bodyguard and watchdog. She was there to make sure that he did not run away again. She also said that an incognito van was waiting outside, and Jiro would ride in the trailer with her. They needed to move because she did not want to waste any more time there, and Jiro asked if that was true. After that, he said goodbye to his grandfather, who told him not to die without his permission and even called him a foolish punk. Jiro returned those words to Toshimasa and told him not to die while he was gone. After that, he finally left. Inside the van, Jiro spoke to Ichika and asked why he had handcuffs. However, she ignored him and asked herself why she had been assigned to that escort mission. Because of that, Jiro asked if Ichika was listening to him. He did not understand why he needed to be put in handcuffs because it made him look like a prisoner. He even thought about how he had just let her put them on him, while Ichika said that he was annoying. She even added that pretty much, he was already their prisoner. Jiro asked what that meant, and Ichika answered that he was no longer human. He had become a monster, a human who had fused with a Mononoke, but he still could not understand that. Ichika then added that Mononoke were the primary targets of their organization, and Jiro was not an exception to that. She did not know what the higher-ups in Shiba were thinking, but as a professional, she took her work very seriously. If she had been told to be a bodyguard, she would do her job no matter what kind of thing she was protecting. Jiro then said that he was only being nice to Ichika because she was a girl, and he asked who she thought she was to call him a monster. That was followed by a loud sound from where they were, which was heard by a worker in front. That sound had come from Ichika punching the wall of the vehicle they were riding in, and she told Jiro the two things she hated the most. The first was Mononoke, and the second was men who looked down on her because she was a girl. She asked Jiro if he understood that, and she added that, in other words, she would never acknowledge Jiro's existence. She even told him to just be quiet and sit there, but before she could finish, Rago came out and said that it was noisy. Ichika was shocked by that, and Rago added that he could not sleep there, which was the reason he hated children. Jiro said that he had been wondering why Rago had been so quiet, and he asked if he was sleeping again. Rago answered that he had been sleeping until Jiro woke him up with his complaining. More than that, if Ichika was the only one guarding them, whom he called a little girl, then that meant the bureau was short on personnel. Hearing that, Ichika called Rago a filthy mononoke and told him not to talk to her, as if he knew her. Rago answered that he admired Ichika's pride, but asked if isn't there something else she should have been focusing on. Because of that, Ichika asked what Rago meant. At the same time, one of the men saw that the area was getting foggy, and the driver said that they were entering the mountains, so he would turn on the lights. He was shocked by what he saw when he did that, and he asked what was in front of them. He even told his companion that something huge was blocking the road, but when he looked at him, a man was already holding his severed head. The driver was extremely shocked, and that was followed by the truck suddenly stopping, which sent Jiro and Ichika flying. They were shocked and wondered what had happened, while Jiro face-planted on the floor. Rago then said that things were getting exciting, and the truck could be seen with a huge dent in the front. Jiro was in pain because of his faceplant, and he asked Ichika what was happening outside. She answered while heading outside that something was wrong, because it was impossible for their agents to get into a regular accident. She even told Jiro that she would check what had happened, so he should stay there. Upon stepping out, she immediately noticed the thick fog and realized that there was no doubt it was an aura barrier. She wondered how she had failed to notice it, and she saw two mononoke there, with the larger one eating the agents. The smaller one saw Ichika, but he seemed disappointed because she did not look tasty. Ichika realized that the two of them were mononoke, while the smaller one seemed surprised that she had avoided their attack. He even said that he had been so excited to attack that van, but the drivers had not even been tasty enough to count as an appetizer. Aside from that, the escort was only a bratty girl, so he asked if the bureau was a joke. Ichika called the two mononoke bastards and said that she had had enough of people looking down on her because she was a girl. At the same time, she pressed one of her bracelets, deactivating her quantum camouflage mode. The smaller mononoke called that a neat trick and said that he was excited now because it looked like Ichika was not all talk. He then asked how much longer his companion, whom he called Fatso, was going to keep eating the hand he was chewing on. He said that they were switching to battle mode and that it was time for dessert before the two of them became larger and more menacing. Ichika drew her gun and fired at the larger mononoke, but it did not seem to have any effect on him. The smaller one tried to hit her with a roundhouse kick, but she jumped upward to avoid it. She answered with a downward slice attack, but he dodged it and hit her back with a punch toward his larger partner. Luckily, Ichika managed to avoid the larger mononoke's powerful punch, and she landed behind him. She realized that the two of them had their own skills. The larger one moved and fought slowly, but his body was as hard as stone, so she could not afford to hold back. She also decided to deal with the smaller one first, who was already behind her, commenting that she's wide open. Ichika was shocked by that, and the smaller one suddenly punched her again with incredible force. She flew into the van, and Jiro heard her crash from inside, so he wondered what was happening outside. Rago said that there were mononoke, so Jiro asked how he knew that. Rago asked who Jiro thought he was talking to, so Jiro told him that he was extremely arrogant. Because of that, Rago asked Jiro if he wanted to die. He then explained to Jiro that he had sensed the mononoke while Jiro was flirting with Ichika, and that was also when he smelled the barrier. Jiro defended himself and said that they were not flirting and asked Rago if he wanted to die. He also asked what barrier Rago was talking about, and Rago said that it was a spectral aura fog. Wherever the fog covers merges with the hidden realm, it goes to another dimension. Jiro wondered what he meant by the hidden realm, and Rago explained that it was a dimension separate from the visible realm where humans lived, and it was where the mononoke resided. Jiro said that he did not understand that, but asked if it was correct to say that they were in danger, so Rago should help him remove the handcuffs. Rago answered that he could not do that, so Jiro asked why. Rago explained that they were not ordinary handcuffs, because they had been specially designed to seal spectral auras. That being said, He could not remove them with his current strength, which irritated Jiro to hear. He then said that he had had enough, and that he would just go outside and make Ichika take them off, but Rago told him to just leave it, which confused him. Rago then asked if Jiro did not understand that the handcuffs made it clear that the Mononoke and the bureau were exactly the same. They only wanted to use them, and they saw them as property. Because of that, there was no reason for them to help anyone, and they should just let Ichika and the Mononoke outside fight. They should let the three of them kill each other, and then they would leave. Hearing that, Jiro called out to Rago and asked if that was supposed to mean something, because he did not understand his point. Rago was shocked to hear that, and asked if Jiro had not been listening to him. Jiro said that it was not about the bureau or the Mononoke, because the two groups had nothing to do with it. Ichika was fighting to protect them, so what he was saying was that, as a man, he could not just sit there and do nothing. At the same time, the smaller Mononoke ordered his companion to charge at Ichika, who was beside the van, and to avoid getting hit, she jumped upward. That was followed by the giant Mononoke plowing through the van, which threw Jiro outside, and he crashed beside Ichika. He even coughed from the pain, and Rago laughed at him and asked if he had a plan after acting so tough earlier, so Jiro told him to leave him alone. At that moment, the smaller Mononoke saw them, and he recognized Jiro as the human possessed by Rago. He said that they had been told to take him alive if possible, and that it was a pain, so he would let Jiro choose. He gave him 10 seconds to decide whether he would surrender or be eaten. He then started counting after that, while Ichika told herself that she knew they were after Rago, but how had they found out about the transport? Jiro spoke to her, so she asked what he wanted. Jiro ordered her to remove his handcuffs so he could help her, but Rago said that he had not agreed to that, so Jiro called him a jerk. Aside from that, Ichika refused to remove the handcuffs, because she would rather die than release Jiro's filthy Mononoke hands. Hearing that, Jiro asked if she had gone crazy, because that was not the time to act like that. At the same time, the larger Mononoke attacked them, so they jumped away to avoid it. The smaller one said that their time was up, and they decided to eat Jiro, who called him bastard. Jiro then told Ichika to get over herself and stop being stubborn, or else they would die. She did not answer because she knew he was right, while he asked if she was listening to him. That was followed by the scene returning to Ichika's past, when it was reported that the mistress died in an accident in the line of duty, killed by a Mononoke. Ichika had only been 5 years old, so it was tragic. Someone then asked what Ichika's father would do with the clan, because he did not have an heir, and a girl could not succeed him. However, Ichika called out to her father, and with anger in her eyes, she said that she would take over the Kishimogen clan. She would study more and train even harder, so that one day, she would become a great Onmitsu like her parents. Back in the present, Jiro called out to Ichika and reminded her of what she had said earlier, that she took pride in her work and completed her missions no matter what. With that in mind, he told her to do whatever it took to complete the mission. To convince her even further, he asked if she had not said that she was a professional. As the larger Mononoke was about to punch them again, Ichika decided to listen to Jiro, so she took her sword and used it to free him from his handcuffs. Jiro was pleased by that and called out to Rago, who said that they should finish it. At the same time, they jumped away from the larger Mononoke's punch, and Jiro charged up his arm. He used it to punch and behead the larger Mononoke, which the smaller one could not believe. Ichika suddenly appeared behind the smaller one and said he was wide open, causing him to panic because he already knew what was about to happen. Ichika cleanly cut him down, and the fight ended there. When Jiro opened his eyes, Jiro told Rago to shut up, saying that he had not had time to land on his feet. Jiro told Rago to shut up because he did not have time to land on his feet. His head even hurt as he stood up, so he asked why that always happened. Then, Ichika approached him and told him that, just so he knew, she would not thank him. Because of that, Rago called Ichika ungrateful and told Jiro that this was why he had told him to just let her die. Jiro said there was no way he would expect Ichika to thank him, and added that he was not thanking her either. She had fought to protect them, and they had simply decided to help her. They did not owe each other anything, and he asked Ichika if she was okay with that. She then told Jiro to just call her by her name, which confused him. She introduced herself to him again as Ichika Kishimogen, so Jiro should stop calling her hey and you. Jiro then asked what they were going to do, and Ichika answered that they would walk because she did not have any money. Jiro was shocked by that, and even asked how Ichika had no money. After that, the scene shifted to Shiba, who was reporting about Jiro and Rago. Based on the circumstances, he said there was something he wanted to suggest. The ones he was speaking to seemed to be floating Japanese demon masks, and they allowed him to give his suggestion. He told them that, regarding Rago, he believed that what had happened to him had been carefully planned by an organization of Mononoke that was unrelated to him. However, at present, they were not sure how many members were in that organization, who they were, or what they wanted. The mask with a beard told him to get to the point, so he said that he would make his point simple. He, Ryosuke Shiba, with his authority as Chief of Special Operations Division 2, wanted to request the foundation of a new squad where Jiro Azuma would operate as an Onmitsu. The floating masks asked if he had gone insane, because recruiting a man possessed by a Mononoke was unthinkable. Shiba insisted that Rago showed no signs of hostility, and Jiro seemed willing to cooperate. At any rate, their enemy was after Rago, so instead of locking him up and letting him rot, it would not be a bad idea to use him as bait. One floating mask said that bait was only effective when it was attached to a hook, and he asked if they could use Jiro, because he had heard that Jiro had ninja blood. Shiba answered that he seemed more promising than the Onmitsu they had lost fighting humans, and Jiro would become a weapon sharp enough to use as soon as he was placed on the front lines. He would be responsible for that weapon, and he planned to run the squad as a small experimental unit with 5 operatives, including himself. That would include Assistant Chief Usami and another rookie. That group would become an anti-Mononoke Special Operations Espionage Unit, with the code name Black Torch, and he asked the higher-ups if that sounded interesting. In the next scene, Jiro was shown brushing his teeth, and while he was doing that, he remembered the things that had happened in his life over the past week. He had met a strange black cat that called himself a Mononoke. He had been attacked by a monster and had died. After that, the black cat had fused with him, and that was followed by the appearance of the Onmitsu government-employed ninjas. He had also fought his grandfather and had been attacked by another monster. Now, he was at a ship port, and he thought that if a random person asked him what he had done over the past week, there was no way that person would believe him. At that moment, someone asked him if he had gotten used to his new life yet. He then asked the one who had asked him, Shiba, what the big idea was. After all, he did not need to keep an eye on him that early because he had nowhere to go. Shiba defended himself by saying that Jiro had escaped from the hospital. Jiro then expressed his disliking for his new life because he had not gotten a chance to rest yet, since all the tests or whatever they were just kept coming one after another. Shiba told Jiro to calm down because his top priority was to confirm that there were no threats to the Bureau and to Jiro. He then called something unbelievable, so Shiba asked what he was talking about. Jiro asked if that was seriously the headquarters of the Bureau of Espionage, because it looked like a rundown warehouse. Shiba answered that unfortunately, it really was the headquarters for Special Operations Division 2. According to him, every division had their own independent base of operations, which on the surface served as a different kind of business. Examples included office buildings, factories, hospitals, libraries, shrines, and more. However, all the other headquarters were much nicer compared to theirs, so being at the bottom was really awful. According to Jiro, the world really was tough, and he also mentioned that Shiba and the others were really struggling, but Shiba told him that he was wrong, so he was confused. Shiba clarified that they were not the only ones struggling, because Jiro was included now too, since he was already one of them. Jiro found that strange, and asked if it was really true that he was part of a squad called Black Torch, which Shiba confirmed. Jiro said that he did not care if their group was called Torch or Porch, because he was only there for his own interests. He added that he did not remember becoming one of Shiba's dogs. All he and Rago wanted was to live freely, and they would fight anything just to make that happen, even if it was a Mononoke. That was the only reason they were there. Shiba then told himself that there was no use forcing Jiro to accept all of that right away. Given his personality, logic and calm conversation would not work, so it seemed that Shiba had no choice but to go with the flow. At that moment, he heard a car arrive, and the person who stepped out said that it had been a long time since she last went there. The person who got out was a woman who greeted Shiba good morning, and she was wearing formal work clothes while having a youthful-looking face. She also saw Jiro, whom she called infamous, while he asked Shiba who she was. Shiba answered that the woman was the Assistant Chief of Special Operations Division 2, Hana Usami, and she was one of his few subordinates. He added that she had been busy with another mission, which made Jiro wonder. Someone then said that it was unlucky that they had gotten there so quickly, because he had been hoping to have Hana to himself for a little longer. He even asked her to let him help with her luggage since she had driven him there. After all, he asked how a gentleman like him could allow a woman to carry her own things. Hana said that the man was flattering her, and Shiba said it was good, that all of them were there now. Jiro then asked who the annoying womanizer was, and Shiba answered that he was Jiro's precious new friend, shocking him. Inside the warehouse, Shiba announced that another new rookie would be joining Division 2, effective immediately. His name was Reiji Kirihara, the one Jiro had called a womanizer earlier. He was also 17 years old like all of them, and he was the heir of the Kirihara clan, a famous ninja clan that had produced many Onmitsu, just like the Kishimogen clan. Shiba hoped that all of them would get along, and Jiro asked if Reiji was just some rich kid. Ichika said that she would follow Shiba's orders, but she did not want to work with any more troublemakers. Jiro asked what she meant by that, while Reiji asked her if she was Ichika Kishimogen, and she answered yes. Reiji said that her reputation precedes her. He had heard rumors about an ambitious female agent who wanted to inherit her clan even though she was a woman. He had been curious about what kind of person Ichika was, but he said he had not expected such a beautiful woman, so Ichika was taken aback by that. A moment later, she mentioned that they had only just met, and Jiro said that Reiji was just flattering her. Because of that comment, Reiji's attention shifted to him, and he said that he had looked at Jiro's records and called him a real eyesore. Reiji added that he had a hard time accepting that he had to work with someone so mediocre and useless. Because of that, he told Jiro to go back to his cage where he would be safe, which Jiro did not like hearing. He even approached Reiji to confront him and said that Reiji sure was nice, calling him a womanizing jerk. Reiji sarcastically apologized, saying that he was only being honest. Jiro then asked if Reiji was looking for a fight, while also calling him Four Eyes Creep. Reiji said that he would fight Jiro, whom he called a half-human freak, which seemed to strike a nerve. Ichika told them that things were getting out of hand, and Hana told Shiba that it was getting bad and that they needed to stop the two. Shiba said that it was good timing, which surprised Hana. He then called the two of them and gave them the go signal to fight right then and there, telling them to take it seriously. For that fight, they went out of the warehouse, where the two faced each other. Ichika asked what was happening and whether the two were going to have a duel. To her, it felt like she was watching a show from the West, while Hana prepared the camera to record in high resolution. Shiba said that Ichika was partly right, because the other half was to successfully establish the squad, which made Ichika ask what he meant. Jiro prepared to fight, and it could be seen in his eyes how serious he was. Shiba then said that when he had suggested forming this new squad, the higher-ups had given him a list of requirements. One of those was proving that Jiro Azuma was truly an asset to their organization. After all, Rago was an extremely powerful Mononoke who had been sealed away until recently. Now that he was free, the Bureau wanted to use his power, but that would only work if Rago and Jiro cooperated with them. Ichika asked if Shiba was testing the two's abilities as Onmitsu, because her own testing had taken a month with classes and exams. Meanwhile, Hana was so focused on the camera that she no longer joined the conversation. Shiba said that this fight was a special exception, because they needed to know what Jiro could do. Ichika said that it was not professional, while Hana managed to start recording. At that moment, Rago came out, while Reiji prepared himself with a sword in hand. Rago said that he thought he would finally be able to sleep, so he asked what all the commotion was about. Jiro answered that Rago had been asleep for a long time, and it was almost afternoon. Rago then switched his attention to Reiji and mentioned that he had never seen him before. He asked what Reiji's deal was, because he looked ready to kill them. Jiro answered that Reiji was a creepy, womanizing, four-eyed jerk, and Rago said that, of course, asking Jiro for a proper explanation had been a mistake. Jiro then called Shiba, who told him to at least call him Chief. Jiro asked why Reiji was allowed to use a weapon while he was not, so Shiba remembered to mention something. The Kirihara clan had specialized in swordsmanship for several generations. Back when the bureau was still the Oniwabanshu, Reiji's clan had taught the shogunate the Kiriharu Ryu style of swordsmanship, along with the Yagyu Shinkage Ryu and Anaha Ito Ryu styles. Of course, the public did not know that, and if Jiro thought it was unfair that Reiji had a sword, he could use one too because they had spares there. Jiro answered that he did not need one because he would not be able to use it anyway. He had only asked because he was curious. Reiji then said that Jiro did not need to hold back and was more than welcome to use his own weapon, asking if hadn't he gained a new one recently. He even said that it was quite an extraordinary weapon, referring to Rago. Jiro called Reiji a jerk and said that Rago was not a weapon. He added that it was his own fight. Reiji had challenged him and he had accepted it, so no one could interfere, not even Rago. He even made Rago promise not to join the fight, so the Mononoke simply said that he was going back to sleep, while Reiji sighed. He even let go of his sword, saying that was silly, and turned his back on Jiro, which surprised Jiro, who asked what he was doing. Reiji said that it was obvious that he was giving Jiro a handicap, because otherwise, the fight would end far too quickly. Because of that, he told Jiro to attack him from wherever he wanted, because he could stop him without even looking, and he would even close his eyes. That made Jiro extremely angry, while Ichika asked Shiba if it was okay for both of them to hold back. Shiba answered that of course it was not, but there was nothing he could do to change how they thought. Back with the two of them, Jiro told Reiji to not underestimate him, so he should do whatever he wanted. Either way, he would crush Reiji, along with his annoying ego and his stupid glasses. After saying that, Jiro leaped toward Reiji to attack him, and Hana interpreted it as him utilizing aerial attacks to reduce noise. Shiba said that he was almost certain that Jiro wasn't thinking that far ahead, since he was as dumb as a doorknob. However, that did not matter to Reiji, because he used distance to his advantage. Shiba even explained that second-rate swordsmen detected enemies based on sound, but the best ones could detect them through presence alone. That meant that Reiji could strike his opponent from any angle, and no one could get close to him. It could even be said that his sword was the ultimate barrier. While Shiba was saying that, Reiji picked up his sword and swung it toward Jiro, who seemed frightened because he knew he would be hit. That was exactly what happened, and Reiji sent him flying far away. Ichika was impressed that Reiji had really finished Jiro with one attack, so she congratulated him for a good job. Hana said that Jiro had been hit directly in the jaw and asked if he would be okay. Reiji then called Shiba and told him that what happened should already be enough proof. Jiro could not even dodge his attack, and he would definitely just get killed. He might have unique powers, but he was useless. Instead of saying anything, Shiba simply pointed at Jiro. Reiji looked at him, and to his shock, Jiro was already standing up, even saying that he had not felt anything from that attack. He even asked what was going on, because he was only just warming up, and while saying that, he wiped the blood dripping from his lip. Reiji praised him for his incredible endurance, which was expected from a Mononoke. Jiro then told him that a crazy old man had trained him ever since he was a child, so Reiji's fancy sword tricks were nothing to him. Reiji did not like hearing that, and he said that the Kirihara Ryu swordsmanship style was not a form of martial arts. It was a deadly combat style shaped by blood and passed down through generations. Because of that, he asked if Jiro was really going to call it a mere trick. For that, he said he would kill him. Jiro smiled after hearing that, and arrogantly said that he wanted to see Reiji try. At the same time, Shiba instructed Hana Usami to make sure she captured everything that was about to happen, which confused her. Shiba said that the fight between the two would be good, and Jiro charged forward while Reiji prepared himself. Ichika asked what Jiro was doing, because he could not just charge and recklessly like that. Usami asked if he had a plan, and Shiba answered that no one knew. Reiji's striking distance was within 2 meters in every direction, and it was literally impossible to attack him head-on. That meant Jiro had very few options when it came to dodging or deflecting Reiji's attacks. They had already seen what Reiji could do, and this time, he was facing Jiro with his eyes open, so in Jiro's current condition, the moment he entered Reiji's barrier, he would certainly be hit by Reiji's sword again. That was exactly what happened as soon as Shiba said that, but unlike the first time, the result was different. Reiji's sword broke, which shocked him greatly. On top of that, Jiro was still right in front of him. Reiji could not accept that Jiro had broken his sword, so he asked if Jiro had been aiming for it from the very beginning, and at the same time, he was about to punch him. Reiji could do nothing about it, and took the full force of Jiro's incredibly powerful overhead punch, sending him flying extremely far from the impact. Reiji crashed hard onto the ground, while Usami was impressed that Jiro had hit him. Shiba then realized that what Jiro had been aiming for was Reiji's sword, so he had been wrong to think that he was just an idiot. It was a good thing that his grandfather had trained him. He also realized that Jiro had used the first attack to figure out Reiji's striking distance. Reiji knew that too, but he could not accept that his wooden sword had been broken so easily. Because of that, he asked if Jiro had used the momentum of the swing and his punch to focus the force on the top edge of the sword. He also told himself to calm down, because the real issue was how Jiro had managed to counter so quickly right after he swung his sword, and the thought he came up with was that Jiro had probably predicted it. That was when he realized that it had only taken one hit for Jiro to learn how to predict his movements, and at that moment, Jiro told him that they were even. He added that Reiji no longer had a partner to help him either, and while saying that, he threw Reiji's sword away. He even mocked Reiji by asking if he still wanted to fight him, calling him rich boy, and laughed at him. He also said that he would give Reiji a juice box if he surrendered, which only annoyed Reiji even more. He stood up and said that it was absurd. He even asked if Jiro always acted like a middle schooler, because the idea that he would surrender was ridiculous. He even said that the fight had only just begun. Jiro was pleased to hear that, and told Reiji to show him his strength. He also shouted at him to die, and Reiji threw the same words back at him as they charged at each other at the same time. A loud sound came from their simultaneous attack, followed by more sounds. Ichika then called Shiba and asked if the two fighting would really convince the higher-ups of anything, because it was just a battle between idiots. Shiba answered that he was thinking about that too. According to him, the fight did show that both of them were resilient. Ichika asked if there was still any point in saying that to the higher-ups, because was Shiba not trying to prove to them that the two were useful? Usami called what the two were doing the epitome of youth, so Shiba asked if she was okay. According to Ichika, all of them were incredibly stupid. At the same time, the two happened to punch each other in the face, and Usami's recording ended. A little later, Reiji woke up and realized that he had probably passed out. Jiro asked him how he was doing, still calling him Four Eyes. Reiji asked if Jiro was the one who had asked him that, so Jiro asked if they were already on a first-name basis. Reiji then asked where everyone was, and Jiro answered that they were probably inside. He said he did not really know because he had just woken up too. Reiji said that meant their fight was a draw, but he was about to take that back and say that Jiro had won because he had woken up before him. However, before he could finish saying that, Jiro threw something at him. He asked what it was, and Jiro answered that it was obviously a can of juice. Because of that, Reiji asked if Jiro's brain was rotten mush, and pointed out that he was only asking why he was giving it to him. Jiro seemed hurt after hearing that, and called Reiji a pain. He said that he had gotten carried away and had not calmed himself down, and he asked if Reiji could have killed him with the first attack if he had really wanted to. He also knew that he had only survived Reiji's second blow because he had managed to break the wooden sword. After all, a real sword would have sliced through his hand. Because of that, he gave that fight to Reiji and congratulated him on his win. Reiji looked at the drink Jiro had given him and asked what it was. He even laughed and said that Jiro really was like a middle schooler. When he opened the soda, it exploded in his face, and Jiro laughed at him. He said had shaken the soda extremely hard while Reiji was asleep. He even added that it was what Reiji deserved for acting like he was so cool, calling him Four Eyes again. However, he was not able to finish saying it because Reiji threw the soda into his face. Jiro got angry, while Reiji called him talking trash. At that moment, Rago told them to be quiet because he was sleeping, which surprised Reiji, while Jiro told Rago to go back to sleep. Inside the warehouse, Usami was checking the memory card she had used to record the two's fight earlier, and she asked if that was really okay. Shiba answered yes and praised her for recording it, but she insisted that was not her point. Shiba then said that there was nothing to worry about, because he had not intended to use that video to convince anyone of anything. They still had many things they needed to do first. Their next step was to do field work tomorrow to evaluate the two's teamwork. Usami asked what he meant. According to her, It was still too early to give the two of them a mission. Ichika might be ready, but the two had no experience for that yet. Shiba said that they could only gain experience by going through it, and safe training programs were just a waste of time. Usami asked what kind of mission it was, because the higher-ups had not given them anything yet, which was a bit sad. Shiba answered that they would just give themselves a mission. After all, did they not already have one? One that might lead them to the identity of their true enemy. It was an important mission that only they could do. In the next scene, Shiba asked Ichika, Jiro, and Reiji if they were ready to leave, but the three could not answer because they were still changing clothes. After they finished, they came out of the warehouse, and when Shiba saw them, he said clothes really do make a man. According to Usami, Jiro looked like a real special operations agent, but Jiro thought they were making fun of him. Ichika asked why she had to come along for that, and whether Jiro and Reiji were not enough. Shiba answered that he had Ichika's gear adjusted when he had the other two's gear made, so they needed to make sure it worked properly. He also said they were running late, so he would get straight to the point. Their new equipment was called Type B espionage gear, revised. Aside from being heat-resistant, pressure-resistant, stab-proof, bulletproof, insulated, and waterproof, it enhanced a person's physical capabilities using special artificial muscle fibers. Its specs were the same as the usual Type B espionage gear, but the revised version came with a new experimental function. He then told them to press and hold the button on their left wrists, so they did it. To their surprise, their clothes suddenly changed, and Shiba said that was the new feature currently in development, called quantum camouflage. Ichika noticed that her usual disguise had changed, and Shiba explained that it was similar to their civilian clothes. However, because of the cost, time, and labor needed for its maintenance, it was not ready for mass production yet, so Ichika said at least he was being honest about that. Shiba added that quantum camouflage mode had one more additional function, which excited the three of them. He said that feature was part of the old model, and told them to try pressing the button twice. They did it, and they suddenly disappeared, which shocked Jiro because he looked somewhat transparent. Reiji told him not to freak out over every little thing. Jiro was also surprised that Reiji and the others were transparent too, and Reiji told him to stop again. Shiba said that was what they called quantum camouflage stealth mode, and they could see each other as transparent, but to other people, they would be completely invisible. Jiro said that was incredibly cool, and even asked if he was invincible when he was invisible. Because of that, Shiba told him he was too optimistic, because in reality, things would not be that easy. When quantum camouflage was enabled, the overall efficiency of the espionage gear dropped significantly, especially when it was in stealth mode. The gear could only function at 100% when it was set to assault mode. From Reiji's understanding, they would only use camouflage mode for everyday activities and stealth mode for covert operations. Assault mode should only be used in emergencies, and he asked if every mode had its own time and place. Shiba answered that was correct and praised Reiji because he understood quickly. He also said there were less important functions they could learn, but they would handle those themselves and get used to them. Because of that, Usami commented that Shiba was as vague as usual. After that, Shiba ended the lecture for the day and told them to head to the field. He then instructed Usami to hold down the fort while they were gone, and she answered yes, sir. Shiba asked the three if they were ready, because what they were about to do was Black Torch's very first mission, so they needed to be careful and move out. In the next scene, it shifted to a sacred place, where Jiro was staring at its enormous torii gate. Shiba even asked what he was doing, because if he kept spacing out, he would be left behind. They then performed some rituals there and paid their respects. Jiro asked if that was really a mission, because it was only a regular shrine visit. Shiba answered that they were starting their adventures as a new squad, so the least they could do was pray for their success. Ichika could not believe they had gone there just to pray, while Reiji said that was probably the other reason they were there. If he had to guess, that shrine was one of the Bureau's facilities. Shiba praised Reiji and said he really was smart, and that his glasses were not just for show. Reiji said his intelligence had nothing to do with his glasses. After that, Shiba invited them to the shrine office because their conversation was going nowhere. While they were heading there, Jiro noticed a man playing music, so he looked at him. He saw that the man was wearing a hood and was eating something. Jiro wondered what that man was doing there and told himself that it looked like street punks liked hanging around shrines. At that moment, he heard someone stopping Shiba, and that caught his attention. Shiba said he would only visit for a short while, so the man speaking to him asked what he meant by that. Jiro asked Ichika who Shiba was talking to. Ichika answered that he was a bureau agent stationed at that shrine, and according to Reiji, based on the conversation between the two, it seemed they did not have an appointment there. Jiro asked if that would be okay, while the agent insisted that Shiba and the others could not enter. He even reminded Shiba that he had already told him that SOD1 would be coming that day. If they double-booked squads, he would be the one in trouble. Shiba asked him to just give them 15 minutes, and they would finish before the agent even knew it. At the same time, Jiro asked Ichika what SOD1 was, and she answered that it was an abbreviation for the Bureau of Espionage's Special Operations Division 1. She explained that the Bureau was divided into several different divisions that served under the Bureau Director and various chiefs. Among them was Division 1, the best division, which had the most personnel and the most authority. Jiro asked if it was like the first investigation division of the Metropolitan Police Department. Ichika said they could be considered similar, and according to Jiro, the point was that SOD1 was the polar opposite of them in two. At that moment, the guard allowed them to enter for 15 minutes and told them not to go over by even 1 second. Shiba answered yes, and even told the guard to keep up the good work outside. He also mentioned that the guard was strict, but Ichika said Shiba was just too laid back. Reiji asked what they were doing there, while Jiro wondered if they were looking for a treasure map or something. Shiba answered not quite, because the place they had come for was down below, and while saying that, he looked for a keypad lock behind some books. Using it, he opened a trapdoor with a hidden staircase behind it. Jiro was amazed when he saw it, and said it looked like a real ninja dungeon, which Shiba agreed with. Ichika said it smelled like mold, and Shiba told them to be careful because it was dark there. While they were going down, Jiro asked what was really down there, and Shiba answered that seeing is believing, so they will understand soon enough. He also said they were almost there, but asked if Rago would be okay, which surprised Jiro and made him ask when Rago had woken up. Meanwhile, Rago asked Shiba who he thought he was and warned him not to underestimate him. Shiba then told Rago to calm down because he was not trying to fight. At that moment, Ichika realized what that place was, and Shiba said she was right, because just up ahead was none other than the 7th Special Sealing Shrine. He said that place was the beginning of everything that had led to that moment. Jiro seemed stunned when he heard that, and Shiba added that Rago had been sealed there. Jiro then mentioned that the stone in the middle of the room was huge, and Shiba told him it was a sealing statue. It was called Seshiseki, a killing stone. It was made from a rare mineral with special qualities capable of suppressing Rago's power. Shiba added that there were other sealing statues that used killing stones, but the one in front of them was the largest. He said they had no time, so they should begin, because their mission was to investigate the place for clues. He and Ichika would question possible witnesses, while Reiji and Jiro would remain there and investigate the place based on Rago's account of what had happened there. Reiji rejected that, which confused Shiba. Reiji said he would rather work with Ichika, so he asked Shiba to switch with him. However, Shiba had already left, and Reiji did not like that because Shiba and Ichika ignored him, so he could only sigh. However, he considered working with Jiro. After that, the scene shifted outside, where Ichika and Shiba were. Ichika asked if it was wise to leave the two of them together, because they would only fight again. Shiba answered that he had a feeling Rago still did not trust them, and it would probably be easier if they were not near him. At times like that, it was better to let the boys have alone time together. Ichika said she was not convinced, and Shiba mentioned that he had already figured that. Back inside, Jiro still could not move on from how huge the killing stone was, while Rago said it makes him sick just looking at it. Jiro asked him why he had been sealed inside it, and Rago answered that he had no idea why. Because of that answer, Jiro told him not to play dumb with him because this was serious. Jiro even asked if maybe it was something Rago could not talk about. Rago answered that he did not remember where he was or what he was doing before he had been sealed there. Jiro did not want to believe that, so he told Rago that if he was only trying to lie, he would get pissed off. Rago insisted that he was not lying and asked what he would even gain from doing that. Jiro was about to explain, but just as he started, Reiji said it was pretty likely that Rago had amnesia. Of course, that was if they believed him, so Jiro asked why Reiji knew that. Reiji explained that it was because he had seen it before. A Mononoke that had been sealed for a long time had returned only as a shadow of its former self. Jiro asked what that meant, but Reiji answered that it was not the time to explain. That irritated Jiro, who could not accept that Reiji would just leave it at that. But Reiji said he would explain later because they needed to focus on the mission. He said he would explain it very simply so Jiro could understand. When a Mononoke was sealed, it was forced to possess an object. When it did that, the Mononoke needed every last drop of its power to accomplish it. Because of that, even a Mononoke that willingly fused with an object could not undo it by itself. Though Jiro and Rago probably already knew that, so Jiro told him to stop the sarcasm and continue talking. While touching the killing stone, Reiji said that normally, Mononoke possessed and lived inside living creatures, but sealing them forced them into an inanimate object. For a Mononoke, possessing an inanimate object was the same as being trapped. If that inanimate object was a killing stone, then it was like being trapped in a living hell. The Mononoke could not move even a single muscle, because it was locked inside eternal darkness while its spiritual energy gradually faded, and that could last for hundreds of years. Even a Mononoke would not come out of that unscathed. They did not know how long Rago had been sealed there, but if all he had was amnesia, maybe he had not been sealed for too long. If they tried to investigate his past, it would be pointless, so they should talk about the present, which confused Jiro. Reiji then asked Rago what had happened when he was released and who had released him. At the same time, Shiba and the others were watching the surveillance video from the attack, and the guard said that unfortunately, all of the facility's cameras had been affected. Shiba said he could not see anything, and the guard answered that this was exactly what he meant. Everything else had been fine except for that 10-minute period, and there had been no abnormalities in the electrical system, so it might have been caused by a barrier. Reiji asked who had been on duty during that incident, and the guard answered that he had been late, so he had not been there, but 2 people had been on duty that night. However, no one watched the cameras at all times, so it was understandable that no one noticed while it was happening. By the time the people on duty heard the commotion and went there, the culprits had already disappeared without a trace, which puzzled Shiba. The guard noticed that they had stayed too long, so he said he would just forward a detailed report to Shiba and pleaded that he leave it at that for the day. After that, the scene shifted to a smoking area, and Ichika said that in the end, they had learned nothing new that could help them. Shiba said nothing, which made her wonder. The reason Shiba was silent was because deep down, he felt something was strange now that they were at the scene of the incident, even though they had not learned anything they did not already know. First, what had happened was not an attack, because it was too tame to call it that. No one had been injured, and there had not been a single witness. The facility had even been left unscathed, and the enemy's actions had been carefully planned and executed. That made him question how the enemy had known Rago was there, and whether there was a Mononoke capable of detecting its sealed brethren. He added that it was impossible that Rago's energy had leaked from the killing stone, so he wondered if someone had leaked the information. If it was highly confidential, and only a small number of people in the entire bureau knew that Rago had been sealed there, then could there be a traitor among them? He told Ichika that he did not understand what was happening, and she wondered why he had paused for so long. Shiba added that for now, they should meet up with the others, which shocked Ichika and made her tell him to slow down. Back inside, Rago mentioned that he had told Jiro what had happened, but in truth, he did not know much about it. It had been extremely dark when he was released, and he had not been fully conscious. At first, all he felt was the sensation of cold stone. Then he smelled stagnant air that reeked of mold. That was followed by a dim light turning on, and he sensed many powerful spectral auras. When he was able to open his eyes slightly, he saw a group of Mononoke standing around him in the darkness, along with some kind of shining plate. Rago was referring to a tablet, where a man spoke to him. Jiro asked what that shining plate was, and whether it was magic. Reiji answered that it was probably a live video feed on a tablet, and based on what had happened, the man who spoke was probably the mastermind behind everything. According to Rago, he had no idea who the man on the tablet was, but he told him that times had changed while he was asleep. The Mononoke had struggled to live, but they had reached their limit. Because of that, the man asked him to awaken from his long sleep and lend them his strength. He said they would restore their dignity as Mononoke and reclaim the world together. They would once again show their fearsome power to foolish and ignorant humans, as well as to their mortal enemies, the detestable Bureau of Espionage. Rago said they knew everything after that. He had refused the man's offer, and the man vanished along with the light. Rago then lashed out in the darkness, eventually found an opening, and escaped. Reiji said it was impressive that Rago had escaped in that condition, but Rago said the Mononoke he had fought were no different than them. They had all underestimated his power, and he asked Reiji what he thought he was. Reiji answered that he was a cat, which pissed Rago off, and he told Jiro that the next time Jiro fought Reiji, he would crush him. According to Jiro, after hearing all of that, they were still at square one, and Rago insisted that was his point because he did not remember anything. Reiji said that was not true because they had gained 3 important pieces of information. First, they knew the group that had released Rago could break the seals on killing stones. They could even do it in a way that left both the stone and the Mononoke intact. Second was the man who had appeared in the video feed, who was most likely acquainted with Rago's past. As for the third, even though they did not know the enemy's methods or motives, their goal was to take revenge on humans and the Bureau of Espionage. Rago wondered about that, and Reiji was about to say that he had a theory about the man calling the Bureau their mortal enemies. But before he could finish, someone told him to stop. It was Jiro, who could no longer handle all of that information, which confused Reiji. Jiro said his brain could not keep up when all that information was thrown at him at the same time. Because of that, Reiji called him an idiot, and Jiro added that even though he could not keep up with the amount of information, thanks to Reiji, he felt lighter about the situation. He felt like he had been dragged into crazy situations and had struggled to keep up with everything being thrown at him. But now, he understood it a little. Through some twist of fate, he had fused with Rago, and the enemy knew how to undo it. Rago had lost his memories, but now they knew he was connected to the enemy. If that was the case, Jiro knew exactly what he had to do, and he would correct his own mistake. He just needed to beat up anyone who stood in his way. If the enemies would not come to him, he would find them himself and beat them up. After that, he would force them to cough up everything they needed to know, and then they would know what to do. While doing that, he would also stop the enemy's revenge plot, so he could accomplish a lot with one action, and he even asked how perfect that was. Because of that, Reiji called Jiro a real piece of work, and what he meant was that Jiro was completely and utterly incorrigible. They did not even know who or what their enemy was, and that was exactly why they were investigating. Jiro reasoned that they would learn that sooner or later, so Reiji asked how they would do that. Jiro insisted that, just like he had said, they would beat up whoever attacked them and make them talk. Because of that, Reiji asked if Jiro still had a brain inside his thick skull. He argued that if they did what Jiro wanted, they would lose whatever advantage they had, and what would happen if they were attacked by an enemy stronger than them. Jiro called Reiji an idiot and said he would never win a fight with that mindset. He said Reiji was all talk, always going on and on about little things, and that he was just overthinking too much. Before Jiro could finish saying that, someone opened a Snickers bar, so the three looked in that direction. They saw someone at the entrance, and it was the strange man Jiro had seen earlier. Reiji asked how a civilian had gotten there, and Jiro recognized him. At the same time, the man dropped the Snickers wrapper, and in an instant, he appeared behind the three of them, saying that he had finally gotten to meet Rago. Jiro and Reiji immediately reacted, but when they punched, they hit nothing because the man had already moved away. He said it seemed there were a few flies bothering them. He even told Jiro and Reiji not to interfere with their emotional reunion. Rago warned Jiro to be careful, and Jiro said he already knew that man was a Mononoke. He even bragged to Reiji that he knew the enemy would show up, so Reiji told him to shut up. However, Reiji admitted that the man was an important lead, so they should fight him. Jiro asked since when Reiji was the one in charge, but the timing was perfect because he was itching to test the espionage gear. After saying that, the two used their new equipment at the same time, while Jiro said it looked like it was time for their first mission to begin. Their enemy laughed at them and even said they were nothing but trash. Outside, Ichika was shocked by something she saw and asked what it was. Shiba answered that the enemy had gotten them and that it was an incredibly strong barrier. Ichika asked what they should do because with their current strength, they could not enter the barrier. Shiba thought for a moment, and Ichika added that they needed to act, or the two inside would be in danger. But before she could finish, a woman arrived and asked Shiba what the meaning of this was. Shiba answered that the woman had arrived at the perfect time. Normally, he would be happy that the cavalry was there, but he had not imagined that she herself would come. It was the chief of Special Operations Division 1, Toko Kasumi, a woman with a long scar over her right eye. Shiba added that they had only been praying for good fortune just a short while ago, but this had already turned into quite the first mission. Back at the ceiling shrine, the male Mononoke had already introduced himself as Koga, and he said that he would become the strongest Mononoke. Jiro found that strange to hear, while Reiji asked what he was talking about. Koga then added that if he was going to become the strongest, he still needed more power, which was why he would take Rago for himself. Rago was shocked by that, while Jiro teased him and said that it looked like someone had confessed to him. Because of that, Rago asked what he was talking about and if he wanted to die. Meanwhile, Reiji wondered what Koga was planning, because it did not seem like he was trying to deceive them. Because of that, he asked himself if it was possible that Koga was just an idiot, and he thought of using that to their advantage. He even decided to make him talk, so he asked if Koga was really his name. Koga asked what he wanted, and even told him not to talk to him as if they were friends. Reiji then asked what Koga meant when he said he wanted to become the strongest Mononoke, and why he needed Rago for that. He pointed out that Koga had gone down there to attack them alone, so he pressed him even further and asked why he needed Rago's power. Koga answered that humans really were stupid, because was it not already obvious that it was because Rago was extremely powerful? And while saying that, he opened another Snickers bar. Because of that, Reiji told Jiro that Koga was just as stupid as him, which made Jiro seem offended. Koga then said that Mononoke did not die the way humans did, and that they could be called semi-immortal. However, they could still die if their bodies were mutilated, and they could lose their spiritual power if they stopped feeding. Rago, on the other hand, was different, because he continued regenerating power even without eating anything. With that power, Koga could become immortal, and no one would be able to stop him anymore. After saying that, a horn came out from the left side of his head, and he said that he would be the one left standing above the rest. At that moment, Jiro realized that Koga was about to attack them, so he prepared himself too, but Reiji stopped him because they still needed to find out who Koga's backer was. However, before Reiji could finish speaking, Koga charged at them with incredible speed. Koga gave Reiji an extremely powerful kick to the side, making him cough, while Koga told him that he was useless to him and that he was done talking to him. He also told Reiji to die as he slammed hard into the base of the killing stone. Jiro turned toward Reiji in worry, but at the same time, Koga punched him downward in the head. Koga slammed him hard into the floor and told him that he was also in the way of what he wanted. Koga even asked if it was true that Jiro was Rago's container, because a box could just stay quiet. Rago became worried for Jiro, while Koga asked him what was wrong, because they could finally talk freely now. He even insisted that he was making things easier for Rago. He grabbed him and once again invited him to become his. He even told Rago not to worry because he would free him from Jiro, whom he called a filthy human. After that, the two of them could finally be alone. They would become invincible, the immortal king of the Mononoke. Rago did not like hearing that, and he refused Koga's wish, which seemed to shock him. Rago then added that he did not belong to anyone, and he even called Koga insane for wanting to become the king of the Mononoke, because he was not interested in something so worthless. If that was what Koga wanted, then he could do it himself, but he should not drag Rago into it. Koga was saddened to hear that, and he was already tearing up as he asked why. He asked why Rago was saying those things, and while doing so, he shook him. He also asked why Rago could not understand him, and he was about to say something about what would happen to Rago if he stayed with Jiro, but before he could finish, Jiro grabbed his foot. Jiro told him that he was too noisy, and he also asked what he was acting out for. He asked if Koga was throwing a tantrum or something. Koga called Jiro a bastard because of that, while Jiro grinned and called out to Reiji. Reiji told Jiro not to yell at him, because he was going to do it anyway. After saying that, he used the Kirihara Ryu sword-style assassination arts, Karajiki Devouring Void, a long-range slashing attack that sent Koga flying. It even seemed to injure him, which irritated him. At that moment, Jiro stood up even though he was still in pain, and Reiji asked if he was okay. Jiro answered that he was fine, and he asked what Reiji had done because it looked really cool. He said that he thought Reiji was just going to run up and slash Koga. Reiji explained that it was like a wind blade, and he had thought he would be able to cut Koga in two with it. Because of that, he could now see why Koga was confident enough to go there alone, because he was fairly strong. He added that everyone outside would probably notice what was happening below, but they could not wait for them to arrive. They needed to handle that situation themselves, so he was counting on Jiro and Rago. Koga told them to be quiet, and he repeatedly told them to shut up. He put even more emotion and emphasis into the last time he said it, and said that this was the reason he hated humans. They were too weak to fight Mononoke alone. They even acted tough even though they could not do anything by themselves, yet they acted as if they were kings of the world. As he was saying that, blood continued dripping from his arm. He also told them that playtime was over, and that he would kill Reiji first. Jiro would be next, but he would not kill him. Instead, he would cut off his limbs and deliver him as nothing more than a body of flesh. However, before all of that, he would make both of them understand which one of them stood at the top, and which one was just dirt beneath his feet. He also said that compared to humans, Mononoke were on a completely different level. At the same time, he formed an enormous sword using the blood that had come out of his body. Because of that, Jiro, Rago, and Reiji prepared to fight. Outside, Kasumi asked the man with her, whom she called Tokieda, how the barrier was doing. He answered that it had been set up quickly, but it was pretty solid. With the exorcism nails they had, it would take a little while to open it. Kasumi said that it could not be helped, and she ordered Tokieda to destroy the door once it had been neutralized to a safe point. Tokieda answered yes, ma'am, and Ichika called out to him. She asked how she could help, and he answered hesitantly. Ichika apologized if what she was asking would be a waste of time, but she asked if there was anything she could do to help. As things stood, because of her own principles, she felt useless just standing there and doing nothing. She also did not want to simply stand there and wait while her teammates were in danger. Tokieda smiled and instructed Ichika to take the nail he was handing her and to do exactly what he told her. Meanwhile, Shiba told Kasumi that he was glad Tokieda had come with her because it would only take him 10 minutes to open the barrier. He said that they had two Onmitsu inside. They may have only been rookies, but they had Rago with them, so he was sure they would be okay. After he said that, Kasumi pulled his necktie and asked if he had been using them as backup. She mentioned that she did not laugh at Shiba's joke about the cavalry arriving, because he had known from the very beginning that they would come, which was why he chose to go there that day. Shiba said that it was his precious underling's first mission and asked if being prepared for the worst-case scenario was not part of a leader's responsibility. Kasumi said that Shiba seemed calm despite the situation, and he said that it was because he trusted Reiji and Jiro, and Kasumi as well. Kasumi said that Shiba was just flattering her, but he said that he was only telling the truth. Kasumi added that it did not matter what Shiba had planned, because he would still take responsibility for what happened that day. Shiba answered that it was fine, and that he would accept whatever punishment Kasumi gave him. Back at the fight in the ceiling room, Koga had already struck the three of them with an extremely powerful sword slash, one strong enough to destroy the floor. Jiro and Reiji both jumped away to dodge it, which separated them from each other. Koga used that opportunity to overwhelm Reiji with his attack, and the intensity could be seen on his face, while Reiji looked shocked. Their swords even clashed, and as a result, Reiji's sword broke. As soon as Koga landed on the floor, he immediately attacked again and struck Reiji in the stomach with incredible force. Reiji even vomited blood because of it, and he was sent flying a great distance. Koga even gave him a stare down, while Jiro made his move and jumped toward him. He used Rago's power for a powerful punch, so Koga prepared to counter. The result was Jiro's fist clashing against Koga's sword, which he had used as a shield. It was clear from Koga's face that he had defended against Jiro's attack without any difficulty, and he even asked what was going on. He asked if that was really all of Jiro's strength. Jiro had Rago's power, and that was truly all he had. While saying that, Koga punched him with tremendous force and sent him flying far away. Rago became worried for Jiro because of that, while Koga told him that it was depressing and that he pitied him. Koga added that as a Mononoke, he could not accept Rago's power being wasted because he was stuck in a mortal form. He also told Rago to just wait, because it would be over soon and he would set him free. He said that they would talk about the details later, but before he could finish, someone told him to shut up and called him a monster. It was Jiro, who said that Koga kept repeating that he would use Rago, so he asked who Koga thought he was to treat them like objects. He asked who even cared whether they were called humans or Mononoke, and told Koga not to slap labels on them just to suit his own needs. They would be the ones to choose what they wanted to become, and he even asked Rago if that was right. Rago answered that Jiro also kept running his mouth about things he did not understand, and that it annoyed him too, but Jiro was not wrong. Aside from that, Koga was even worse. After saying that, Rago poured his power into Jiro and told him that they should hit Koga with an extremely powerful attack. With Rago's help, Jiro unleashed a powerful attack that went straight toward Koga, as if he had thrown Rago with all the strength he had. Because of that, smoke filled the entire area, and Reiji was shocked by the true power of the two of them. Back with Jiro, he was already panting after that attack, and he asked Koga how that was. He did not hear anything for a moment, before Koga laughed loudly and emerged with his sword completely shattered. Jiro could not believe it when he saw that, while Koga was overjoyed by the attack Jiro had shown him. He said that was exactly what he wanted, and he emphasized it over and over again. He even begged Rago to give that power to him. At that moment, they heard a loud explosion, so Jiro asked what it was. Koga realized that the barrier had been destroyed, and he knew that it was impossible to fight the reinforcements in his current state. After saying that, he dropped his broken sword, which turned back into liquid and formed a portal, and he said that he was going home. Jiro was shocked by that and asked why Koga was running away, but Koga said that he was not running away and was merely going home. Jiro insisted that those were the same thing. Koga told him not to let it go to his head, because he could kill him whenever he wanted. However, if he killed him, he would not be able to obtain Rago, and that would be bad. Because of that, he would let Jiro live for now, and next time, he would remove his arms, legs, tongue, and eyes, then bring him home. Koga added that Rago would belong to him, and until that happened, Jiro should just wait. Before leaving, he asked Jiro what his name was again, and Jiro asked what his deal was. Even so, he introduced himself as Jiro Azuma and told Koga to remember his name. Koga was curious about his last name, Azuma. Koga even grinned and said that he understood now, because Jiro was from the Azuma Onmitsu clan, which made Jiro ask what was so funny. Koga even said that Jiro was the son of a certain man, someone the Mononoke seemed to know. Jiro was shocked by that, but Koga told him to forget it. He said that it did not make any difference to him, and then he said goodbye. When the portal closed, Shiba and Ichika arrived just in time, searching for Jiro and Reiji. After that, the scene shifted outside, where Shiba thanked Tokieda for helping open the barrier. Tokieda said that he had requested backup from the investigation division and also asked for help from the medical division. Shiba apologized for the trouble. Tokieda said that they needed to return to headquarters, and Shiba answered that they would handle things from there. Kasumi lowered her window as she said that two Onmitsu had been injured during an unauthorized mission, and that one of their facilities had been severely damaged. At that moment, Shiba realized that he really needed to take responsibility for it. Kasumi added that she did not know what the higher-ups would say, but she had already told Shiba that he was the one at fault. Shiba said that of course he would take responsibility for his own actions, but Kasumi should reward Jiro and Reiji, which shocked Kasumi to hear. Shiba explained that an extremely powerful demon had created a barrier and attacked them while they were alone. They had even defeated it, even though it was only their first mission. Kasumi asked who cared, because that was simply how things were, and the two of them should not receive special treatment. Because of that, Jiro told her that she was as tough as ever. After the two of them left, Shiba told himself that he supposed he would consider that mission a success. However, he wondered what he should do with the three of them, because they looked completely discouraged. He asked how Reiji's injuries were, and Reiji said that he thought his bones and internal organs were fine. However, if it were not for the suit, he probably would have died, but before he could say that, Shiba told him not to think that way. For Reiji, his defeat had not only been in his head, because he truly had been no match for Koga. Even his surprise attack had only barely wounded him. He even accepted that he had been too confident in himself, so he needed to become stronger. Ichika told herself that in the end, she had done nothing. She had only followed orders, but she had not been present at the scene of the fight, so she had not been able to help. However, she stopped herself because thinking that way was wrong, and it was not the time for that kind of attitude. If she had only been faster in securing the door, and if she had only helped bring down the barrier faster, her teammates might not have been hurt that badly. She knew that it was pointless to think about what they could have done differently, but it still frustrated her. At the same time, Jiro also seemed deep in thought. He was thinking about what Koga had said, that he was apparently the son of a man Koga had called that guy. He wondered who that was, and whether Koga had been talking about his father. The only father he had known his entire life was his grandfather, and Nachi had been like a mother to him. It had been that way ever since he was a child, and he had never asked his grandfather about his parents. He had simply thought that they were dead, and he had been fine with that. However, he was irritated that a Mononoke had mentioned his parents, and he said that it was a pain. Because of that, Shiba asked him what was wrong. Jiro told him that he did not understand any of it and did not care, so he would just do it. Shiba found that strange and asked what he meant. Jiro answered that he was talking about being in Onmitsu and joining Black Torch or whatever it was called. Reiji asked what he was talking about, while Ichika said that he had already joined Black Torch. Jiro told them to be quiet because he was letting out his emotions, but Ichika said that they did not understand him. Reiji even agreed with her and told Jiro to just die. Because of that, Jiro told Reiji not to mention that casually, and he called him a four-eyed freak again. Shiba then said that Jiro's emotions and his feeling that he was part of them were important. He said that Jiro had already become a member of Black Torch when he joined the squad, so if something happened to him, they needed to help each other as a team. However, that did not mean they all needed to have one single goal. Each of them had their own thoughts and feelings, and those were what should guide them. Those things would ground them and make them stronger. He added that he did not know how adults work together, but as far as young people like them were concerned, what they had done was enough. They were there with him, so whenever they felt like they were losing their way, they should just keep looking forward, because that was what youth was. A few days after the incident at the shrine, Shiba informed the Black Torch squad that, just as he had expected, the higher-ups had scolded him about it. Usami sighed and said that she had been the one who filled out the paperwork for Shiba. He then added that they should begin their mission for the day, and according to Ichika, that was good, but she asked if that was really the location of their mission for the day, since they were just outside a warehouse. Shiba confirmed that it was, because their mission for that day was a training exercise, and he had invited a special guest. That person laughed from the rooftop and was delighted to see the rookies. That person then jumped down, and it turned out that she was a woman. She slammed into the ground like a belly splash into a pool, which made them look at her. She apologized for making them wait, and Jiro asked who she was. Shiba introduced her as Fuyo, and he was pretty sure that they could already tell that Fuyo was a Mononoke. He explained that he had already told them before that the Bureau's mission was the surveillance and disposal of Mononoke, but that only applied to those seen as threats to the general public. Some of the kinder ones even helped them, because it was better for them to cooperate than fight one another for no reason. Jiro thought that it was not good, because he knew Shiba was being serious, but he could not take him seriously. Fuyo then said that she would make one thing clear to them, that she had no intention of bowing down to them. Shiba asked if that was so. Fuyo's expression then changed when she saw Rago, and Rago asked what was wrong. Fuyo mentioned that Rago was cuter than she had imagined, while Rago said that he did not care what a small fry thought. Fuyo became annoyed because of that, so she called Rago a dirty stray cat, and Rago challenged her by asking if she wanted to fight. In the middle of all that, Ichika asked if they could start already. Then, they went to their positions, and Shiba said that he would get straight to the point. He said that the day's training was about how to counter supernatural magic, which Reiji wondered about. Shiba said that they had encountered Mononoke that could transform and create barriers, while others could manipulate spectral auras to perform hypnosis or create illusions. It would be better for them to gain experience in a controlled environment before facing the real thing. And that was the reason Fuyo was there, who told them to be grateful. After that, Shiba gave Fuyo the signal to begin, so she used her power. Jiro was shocked to see it, while Fuyo told them to prepare themselves, because she was coming. She used Haka, Kyo Rinjin, and Wilting Flower, maddening lotus encampment. Shiba said that their objective was simple, to do whatever they could to escape and return safely, and then he wished them good luck. Fuyo trapped them inside the flowers, while Usami asked Shiba if that was really okay, because he had not even told the three of them what Fuyo's spell did. Shiba answered that training was more effective when it resembled what would happen in reality, because an enemy would not explain things during a fight. Aside from that, they were stronger than expected, so they would be fine. Inside one of the flowers, where Reiji was, he had already realized that Fuyo's spell trapped its targets inside an enclosed illusion. He said that if it appeared in the middle of combat, he was not sure he would be able to stay calm. However, he wondered how he could get out of there, and then he saw something that seemed to shock him. What he saw was a cave, and he could not believe that it was in front of him, because it came from a memory of his past. From there, a man came out, which shocked him even more, because he knew him. It was his brother, and he also remembered his sword. He told himself to calm down because it was only caused by the spell, just an illusion, so he should not let himself fall for it. After all, his older brother was no longer alive, but he suddenly spoke and asked if Reiji had become stronger. Reiji was extremely shocked by that, and his brother suddenly attacked him, but luckily, he managed to block the attack. His brother asked if that was all he had, because that kind of sword would not be enough to kill him. After that, the scene returned to the past, where someone had been hurt, so someone told them to stop. The one who had been hurt was Reiji, and the one who had done it was his brother. His older brother was shocked to see that he seemed to have been injured, so he asked if he was okay. Reiji answered that he was fine and that his eyelid had just been hit. Someone then praised one of them, and he praised Shinji's progress. It was their father, whom Shinji thanked for praising him. He even called their father an amazing teacher, and that he was also lucky to have a good opponent, which their father agreed with. A little later, Shinji said that Reiji's wound would leave a scar, so he apologized to him because he had gotten carried away, but Reiji said that it was not a big deal. Since Shinji was the heir of the clan, he needed to become strong, and if he was going to use him as a stepping stone, then that was fine. Shinji asked what Reiji was talking about, because he was not a stepping stone. When he inherits the clan, Reiji would always be his brother. If he ever made a mistake, he knew Reiji would be there for him. Reiji was shocked to hear that, and asked if Shinji wanted him to clean up his mistakes, but Shinji told him not to look at him like that. Shinji added that he was counting on Reiji, and they fist bumped as they agreed on it. According to Reiji's memory, that was how his brother had been back then. As twins, they had been raised equally without prejudice, and as far as he remembered, he could not beat Shinji in anything. That included academics and swordsmanship, so as time passed, the gap between them only grew bigger. He added that Shinji had always been a few steps ahead of him, and he followed him and looked up to him. It even reached the point where he gave up on chasing after him and surpassing him. He simply thought that his role was to remain in his shadow, and he had accepted that Shinji, as the eldest, would inherit the clan. After that, the scene shifted to the time when they performed the Jin no Ji ritual of blades, and their father said that he assumed Shinji was fully prepared. Shinji answered that he was, and Reiji explained that the ritual was the final test of the Kirihara Ryu sword style and also served as the ritual for inheriting the clan. In the forest behind their house was a cave known as Kaze no Yuro, or Wind's Hollow, and in the deepest part of that cave was a sword that their clan had protected for generations. It was a demonic sword known as Yamakaze, or Hellwind. In ancient times, the blade of that sword had been possessed by a Mononoke, and the trial required the wielder to use the sword and return it without being possessed. That was the ritual of blades. Reiji had experienced the ritual once when he was younger and had seen the sword with his own eyes. He still remembered its demonic aura, and it had been so powerful that even a child like him had felt it. He even wondered what his brother had felt when he saw it back then. Fast forward a few years, back at the time for Shinji's ritual, and their father told him that the Mononoke sealed inside Yamakaze was no longer conscious, but its hatred and demonic power grew stronger every year. Because of that, he told Shinji to be careful and not let himself be consumed by it, and Shinji answered yes. Reiji also told his brother to be careful, and Shinji said that he would handle it because he would find the sword and bring it back without any problems. He even added before entering the cave completely that he would be back soon. His father and brother watched him enter, and according to Reiji, just as Shinji had said, he quickly returned. However, he suddenly attacked them. So their father told Reiji to run because he was no match for Shinji, but before he could finish, his head was cut off. Reiji was terrified to see that, and he added in his story that Shinji had been swallowed by Yamakaze. Shinji even told him to listen to their father and pointed out that, in his current state, he was no match for him. So Shinji told him to get stronger. He urged him to rise up and face him again so that someday he could kill him, and Reiji noticed that Shinji was crying. He tried to ask Shinji what he was talking about, and he wondered if he had not been possessed by the sword. Shinji did not answer him and simply walked away. So Reiji asked where he was going and why he was leaving him there. Back in the present, Shinji told Reiji that his strength was still not enough and that he still had a long way to go. At that level, he would not be able to kill him. After they stepped back from each other, Reiji told himself that the Shinji in front of him was only an illusion created by his memory, and even if he fought him, he knew nothing about his brother after he left. That was why he needed to see that through to the end, because he needed to see Shinji with his own eyes. Aside from that, he had made a promise to him, and as he said that, he remembered what Shinji had once said, that they would always be brothers, and that if he ever made a mistake, he knew Reiji would be there for him. He had even mentioned that he was counting on him. In the present, they attacked each other. The illusion of Shinji stiffened, and the emotion disappeared from his face, while Reiji said that this was the first illusion he had fought. After he said that, the illusion's body collapsed, and Reiji said that it had been surprisingly well made. He had managed to cut the illusion of his brother in two, and he thanked him because he now knew what he needed to do. Inside another flower, a woman was teaching a child how to water plants. The woman guided the child on how to properly water the roots, not the flowers. That child was Ichika, and the woman asked if she wanted to become a florist when she grew up, but Ichika answered that she did not. What she wanted was to become an onmitsu, just like her mother and father. The woman she was talking to was her mother, and she told her that being an onmitsu was a busy and dangerous job, so she asked if she really did not want to become a florist instead. Ichika stood firm and said that she was fine with becoming an onmitsu because she was the child of her parents. She even asked her mother how she could become like her when she grew up, and her mother answered that they would see. Ichika watched all of that and realized that it was a memory from when she was little and her mother was still alive, a happy time in her life. Back then, she had not understood much about onmitsu, and she had simply thought that they were heroes who fought bad people. At that moment, someone approached the mother and daughter and told Ichika's mother that they had received a call for an emergency mission, so she needed to leave. Ichika asked if her mother was going to work, and her mother apologized. However, she told Ichika not to worry because she was a strong woman. Because of that, she told her to be good and wait for her to come back. The present Ichika watched that memory play out and thought that this was usually what happened whenever her mother left for a mission. At that time, however, she had not thought that it would be the last time she would see her. That was because the next time she saw her mother was at her wake. She said that she did not remember much about what happened there, and she felt that it had taken her a long time to understand that her mother would not be coming back. The only thing she remembered was that the coffin had been filled with flowers without her mother's body inside it. It looked beautiful, but it was also frightening. After that, she began to run, because she needed to become stronger so she could become an onmitsu worthy of inheriting her clan. From the moment she woke up, after school, after training, and before going to bed, she would run in a blind effort to keep running. When she became faster and could run farther, she felt as if she was getting closer to her mother. After she joined the bureau, a woman spoke to her and said that her father had instructed her to pick her up. That girl is named Nishina, and she said that there was already a car waiting for Ichika, so she should go with her. Ichika found that strange to hear. She even asked where they were going, and Nishina answered that it was a research facility owned by the bureau. Ichika asked if it was underground because it was so dark and she could not see anything. Nishina told her to wait a moment because the lights were about to turn on. That was exactly what happened, and it was so bright that Ichika even covered her eyes. When she could see again, she was shocked by what was in front of her because it was a stone statue of a woman. She even asked if it was a statue of her mother, and Nishina answered that it was, much to her horror. However, she said that it was not a carving because Ichika's mother was actually inside. She also had a message from her father. According to it, he He apologized to Ichika for hiding that secret from her for such a long time. Because of bureau regulations, he had not been allowed to tell anyone outside the bureau. However, Ichika had grown up and joined them, so he would now tell her the truth. As she could see, her mother, Kanade, was not dead. They assumed that she had been hit by a spell and sealed inside that stone while in the line of duty, but the culprit had not been caught yet. For the past 10 years, he had done everything he could to free Kanade from that spell, but unfortunately, nothing had worked. Now that Ichika knew the truth, he wondered how she felt, and perhaps she despises him as a father or as an Onmitsu. He also said that he understood they should talk about it in person, but that was not possible because of his current position, and all he could do was give her that message. From that point on, it was up to Ichika what she would believe, and in the present, Ichika was already touching the glass casing where her mother was. She told her to wait for her, and promised that she would get her out of there. After Ichika said that, the illusion of Kanade spoke and said that her daughter could not do it. She said that she had told her to be a good girl, and had warned her that being an Onmitsu was dangerous. She also told Ichika to leave, or else she would become like her. And while saying that, she broke the stone that had sealed her. Kanade came out as a monster, so Ichika prepared to fight. Kanade tried to bite her with her sharp teeth, so Ichika drew her sword. She jumped away to avoid her mother's attack, and when she landed, she jumped toward her blind spot, then followed up with a quick slash across her body. She even apologized mockingly, because illusions like that had no effect on her anymore. After all, she was no longer a child. After that, she escaped from the flower where she had been, and Shiba and the others saw her. He said that it had not even taken 5 minutes for Ichika and Reiji to escape, and he asked if Ichika was okay. She answered that of course she was, because that had been nothing to her. Shiba said that they only needed to wait for Jiro now, and someone wondered how he was doing. According to Usami, she thought Jiro and Rago did not seem good at handling that kind of thing, and Shiba said that the two of them were also in a unique situation. After all, Kyorinjin was an ability that brought the target's emotional instabilities and past scars to life, but they were two souls fused into one. Because of that, he wondered what kind of illusion they were facing. At any rate, he said there was nothing they could do but watch what happened, and the scene shifted inside Jiro's flower. He was running inside and asking where they were. He had been going around in circles for a while, and he had not seen any exit or even a wall. At this rate, the thing behind them would catch up to them. However, Rago warned him that it was already in front of them, so Jiro jumped backward. He asked what that thing was, while Rago thought that they were trapped inside Fuyo's illusion, so it was impossible for what was in front of them to be real. In fact, he could not sense anything from it. However, he wondered what it was, because he felt as if he had seen it before. He even called it a pain, while Jiro said that it looked like they had no choice but to fight that thing because they could not escape it. He said that he was ready to go and invited Rago to fight the monstrous thing in front of them.